door so that we avoid the noise coming from outside. I'm sure more people will come in. I know it's early, and it's earlier than yesterday, but still happy to have you in the room. In a very quiet, I would say, Brussels, with no public transportation almost. And I hope you had a good walk, like I did this morning. So I feel revigorated and ready for the second day. Good. So then let me start. I think we had a nice day yesterday. And I think, and I hope you've enjoyed a bit the general introduction, what we do in the program in general. But also feel motivated by the three very, very good, I have to say, speeches in the morning. I really enjoyed them to see the European Commission, for example, still committed and still considering clean hydrogen technologies strategical for Europe. And then confirmation from both industry and research communities to continue to develop, to continue to do research and innovation. And that gives me the link, if you want, to the first point of the day today. And I'm really happy to introduce again Luigi Crema. He's the president of Hydrogen Europe Research. And really looking forward to see, Luigi, the efforts you've done together in your group. I saw a very heavy book, which I intend to really study myself, maybe over Christmas. And really looking forward to hear from you and work together, of course, for the future. Thank you, Luigi.
Many thanks, Mirella, for the kind introduction. Today I have the hard job to wake all of us immediately and rapidly to be inside the second day and all the important speeches and panels that will happen today. In this first speech, I would like to present you a book that is available outside. You can take a copy. I hope there will be copies for all of you. This is something where our members, Hydrogen Europe Research, work to identify some future priorities for research. Particularly with the intent to say that research will not end tomorrow, but we need a continued support to research, starting from the low TRL, starting from fundamental research, and then step by step, as even Mirella and colleagues from the DAY2 showed on yesterday, it's then supporting an impact for the hydrogen sector in Europe, particularly an impact in the industrial sector. I would like to make some steps back before entering into the details. So, starting from a sector, the hydrogen sector, that it's true that has some difficulties today. We heard something even from the speech of Joanna Drake yesterday. The sector is in difficulty, particularly for closing the business in some of the projects, for moving to the final investment decision, the so-called FID. But generally and globally, the sector is progressing, is enlarging. This is included in the last report from the Hydrogen Council, where they are monitoring year by year the progress of the sector globally. There are a lot of projects in the global pipeline that are increasing in terms of number. 1,500 projects, 400 projects globally, with more than 500 billion euros of investment, of which around 30% in this mapping, maybe it's not all happening globally, but it's a considerable picture. More than 30% of these projects are from final investment decision to implementation. The production of RF and biohydrogen is increasing year by year. at a rate of 50%. And more important, there are even other countries that are starting to invest in hydrogen considerably. And today, from this mapping, at least, Europe is in the third position in investments in the hydrogen sector. More or less, China is investing 50% more than Europe. So this is an important signal saying that the hydrogen market is starting, and there will be a global competition. In the global competition, I'm convinced that an important role will be played by knowledge, by development of IP, and by activities related to research and innovation, more and more connected even with the technology transfer and the early market activation. One important aspect to keep competitive is trying to accelerate the development time and then being ready from an idea to the market ready technology in the shorter term as possible. Of course, with the hydrogen value chain, it's not easy because hydrogen is not a product entering into an existing market. It's not doable to unplug the old, like with the batteries, to unplug the old one. We have the new one and we plug instead of the old one because everything behind the meter is already available. For the hydrogen, it's much more complex. We need to develop the entire value chain. The entire value chain is potentially the new pillar for one of the new pillars for molecules in the future. And considering that today we have as primary energy use 8 parts of energy out of 10 made by molecules, and on the other side we cannot electrify 100% end uses at net zero. Hydrogen will play a role in between these two limits. More or less all the scenarios are saying that by 2050 we will have between 15-25 of end uses in hydrogen or hydrogen carriers. But this is involving even another issue, so that maybe one part of the institutions are bringing new instruments to activate the value chain, but these instruments are not moving the market. And so the consideration is the market is not ready. So we do not have to invest more in hydrogen because we need to wait for proper conditions in the future. But even this is a wrong assumption, because if the market is not moving, it's particularly because in the entire value chain we have several barriers. And unless we are not solving all the barriers, the market cannot fly in a specific sector of hydrogen. To make an example, we can provide instruments like incentives for the production to have the proper price for hydrogen in the willingness to pay of the demand. We can then prepare all the policies to activate the mobility sector, even investing in infrastructures like refueling stations. But maybe there's one only missing policy, like the incentive to buy fuel cell trucks, for example, and this barrier is preventing the entire value chain to roll out into the market. Just to say that we have a complexity that should be solved. Just to give a picture of this complexity, what's missing in the hydrogen sector? There are a list of elements that must be considered to close the gap. There is something related technology competitiveness. Of course, we need to have performing technologies, particularly we have seen yesterday even something related, for example, the durability of electrolyzers and fuel cells. We need to activate proper directions to support the knowledge transfer, particularly with new instruments for startups, and the DAY2 is activating these new instruments starting from the next year, and support the first industrial deployment. But we have then other other challenges in the industrial scaling up. In the industrial scaling up, we need investments, we need public support for closing the funding gap. This is happening, for example, in the IPCEI's projects, industrial policies, and industrial scaling up must go hand by hand with the early market development. So when public funding is involved in Europe to activate the market, there should be a constraint to support European technologies in moving through the learning curve, so to be competitive then in the global competition, of course, with a fair approach with other countries. Economic viability and market activation. So you can see a list of points that should be considered all in one single market picture. We need, particularly here, a collaboration between the different stakeholders, institutional stakeholders, research entities, industrial sector. And even in the institutions, we need, at the member state level, interministerial table, at the European level, an horizontal collaboration between different directorates of the European Commission. Then going to research, research will be activating competitiveness for the sector, because technologies will be progressing in terms of performances, in terms of cost reduction, in terms of reduction of the critical raw materials, and so who will improve technologies will dominate the market in the future, of course. So this is something that should be considered if Europe would like to play a role in the market of the future. And sectors like hydrogen are taking quite long to mature and to propose the final technologies. We are improving yet internal combustion engines today that are being developed for more than 100 years. Sectors like hydrogen or batteries are taking decades before proposing to the market the final solutions and technologies. But this is very important that research could be supported, even because research is even preventing bottlenecks in the future regarding potentially even the supply chain. For example, reduction of critical raw materials is an important task to avoid that in the future, in the scaling up of manufacturing for the hydrogen sector, we could have some bottleneck in availability of some materials, or for the global scarcity, or even because these materials are not available maybe in Europe. So this is another important task to work on and to understand, and there are even studies proposed by and done by the DAY2 with the outlook on the supply chain. And then just let me conclude the part of introduction of research priority with a presentation, a short presentation of the book that's available outside. This book is composed in two parts. There is a first part that's more general, having a look through all the value chain of hydrogen, from production to distribution and storage to end uses and cross-cutting issues, to see what are some research priorities for today and for tomorrow. Of course, there is a continuity in the development of some priorities, and we are yet working in the present program on these priorities. It's only an highlight that some of the present priorities will be even important in the next future. I will give a very short picture, pillar by pillar, of the hydrogen sector. We published this general outlook on priorities, even in a shorter paper on last year during the Hydrogen Week. And this is complemented by a second part where we invited our members inside the working group on low TRL research to identify in detail what are specific research priorities. And in this second part you will find 10 papers inside the book that are related to some of these priorities. We will continue to work with our members to identify and dig into the details of further priorities even in the next year. And this is even part of a collaboration that we have with Mission Innovation, with the Clean Hydrogen Mission. It's open the candidature of papers even for a special issue of an international journal, the International Journal on Hydrogen Energy, where we are collecting globally priorities for research, even in the global context. These priorities are even matched with a work done inside the DAY2 together with Hydrogen Europe, with the European Commission, and coordinated by the Program Office of updating the SRIA, the Strategic Research Innovation Agenda, where an intensive work has been done to update even the KPIs, the future KPIs for the different technologies in the different pillars of the hydrogen sector. And these KPIs are very important to see that there could be an improvement, a further improvement in the technologies, not only with an outlook to 2030, but even with a longer outlook to 2040. So motivating even the support, the economic financial support to research in the coming years. In this part, I will make a very short summary, but I will leave all the details for you. A short summary on the priorities pillar by pillar that we included in the first part of the book. So in hydrogen production, of course, electrolysis will play an important role. We see that there are a lot of further improvements to reduce the cost of the technology, the cost of the single cells, embedding in less components the overall performances and the process. But we have even several alternative pathways to produce hydrogen, not only electrolytic hydrogen, and even a combination of opportunities to use electrolysis in different forms and ways. For example, the reversible electrolysis or the co-electrolysis to make a synthesis of more complex molecules. And we will explore even soon in the program the role of geological hydrogen, which is something to better understand, which could be the potential to explore it and to understand what's needed to extract hydrogen at the proper level of purity from underground. And you see some of the KPIs that we are preparing in the revision of the SRIA. A second pillar in storage, transport and distribution. Of course, this is a very challenging pillar, particularly for the storage of hydrogen, particularly in big amounts, for example, in the underground storage. Soon, probably next year, if not the year after, we will make a test in one of the projects of the DAY2 in real underground depleted gas basins, filling in around 100 tons of hydrogen instead of natural gas. This will be the first test globally trying to use this big reservoir that could become in the next future the energy reserve for Europe from the seasonal reserve for Europe that today is utilized for natural gas. And of course, other challenges on pipelines, carriers, compressed and liquid hydrogen storage. In the hydrogen applications for the transport, I think one big challenge is developing more performing fuel cells. This is valid for the transport, but even for stationary applications. I think fuel cells will be a key technology for the future, and there are, of course, several improvements that could be applied to this technology yet, and of course, developing two very important sectors that are already part of European policies and are constraining the change from fossil fuels to RFNBO hydrogen in aviation and maritime transport. Other targets are related to industry and energy. Particularly, the demand side will be probably the most important pillar to develop in the hydrogen sector. We need then to bring more efficient technologies inside some hard-to-abate industries. And soon we will see even some targets in the glass ceramic industry, as well as, of course, other sectors that are already identified as key, like the steel making, or the refineries, or the chemistry industry. And a lot of transversal activities, because hydrogen is not working in silos, and there are several key enabling technologies that could play a role, including AI for the hydrogen sector, and including even preparing around the technology framework, even a lot of other key enablers for the sector, like education and training, development of skills, but even making more sustainable technology. Probably the problem related PFAS with the ban from the European Commission has been postponed in time, but sooner or later we need to deal with this issue of environmental impact. So there's quite a relevant activity to find a replacement for PFAS in the hydrogen technologies, particularly in PEM electrolyzers. Modeling tools, as well as even one other important point, the development of research and technology infrastructures at the relevant industrial scale. I will not enter into the details of these last slides, because this will be part then of the specific papers, and I think my time is over. But just to give another perspective of the priorities. Until now, you have seen priorities pillar by pillar. Now, in the specific papers, we are addressing specific priorities that are topic related. So in a couple of papers, we are going into deeper details on advanced materials and membranes, what could be the future research in these topics. We are analyzing more in details the targets for alternative hydrogen production pathways in another specific paper related to some novel ways of electrolysis, depolarized electrolysis, for example, and biomass and thermochemical cycles. Advanced safety and regulatory impact in other two papers related the international codes for maritime, as well as new ways of having pressurized hydrogen tanks without the TPRD valve, which is one of the potential issues when the tank is heating up and could explode. There are new technologies that are preventing this, even with without this valve, and with the intrinsic safety that could be applied. Advanced manufacturing, so here we have three papers related to the reduction of PFAS, already mentioned, and even related to the development of novel research and technology infrastructures in Europe. We made a mapping that is part of one of these papers through our members in universities and research centers in Europe. And last is related to industrial applications and use cases. One paper is related to low-pressure hydrogen storage in metal hydrides and solid-state form, and another one is related to the processes to enable hydrogen inside the glass and ceramic industry. So, just to conclude, this is my last slide, last statements. Research is not the beginning of the chain, research is the foundation of the entire chain. And so we hope through Hydrogen Europe Research and in an open collaboration, of course, with our main stakeholders, Hydrogen Europe, the European Commission, and the joint undertaking to support this important challenge and to support particularly the impact of the technologies and the competitiveness that could stay in Europe in this sector. Thanks a lot for the attention, and the book is available then outside.
Thank you very much, Luigi. I have to say, impressive work, and I think it's going to help us a lot when we will discuss, indeed, within the next MFF, the future of technology innovation on the hydrogen sector. So really looking forward to work together with your team for not only improving the KPIs work, which is already done, like you already mentioned, but also to look at what we have to do by 2035, 2040, and why not 2050. I hope to live to see that. But really a lot to do, and really looking forward with my team to work on that. Excellent job, I have to say. Thank you very much. Indeed, now we have to move and continue. Somehow along the chain, like we started yesterday with the production, with the logistics, the infrastructure and distribution, we talked about end users transport. Today we will talk about heat and power. We look at, let's call it transversal, maybe better than cross-cutting issues this afternoon also. But allow me to wake you up with a session on the valleys. This is something that is very close to my heart. It's something that I continue to say the GU has invented, has put it in place. It has come with this innovation, is continuously working on this concept, is continuously reinventing what we do on the valleys with the learnings we are getting from the projects and from everything we do. And it is my pleasure to give the floor first to, like I always call him, let's say today, right hand, Antonio Aguilo. He is also the team lead of the project officers, so within my team. And together, we are always, like I said, overseeing the work on the valleys, and try to see what else we can do every year, and why not, what to do for the next 10, 15, 20 years to come. So, Antonio, please give us a bit of portfolio and activities on the valleys. Yes, thank you.
And good morning, everyone, and thank you, Luigi, for the very nice and comprehensive introduction. I think it was very good to see all together. And thank you, Mirella, as well. And indeed, we have put some slides together with my colleagues, Renata and Pietro. We are somehow working as a core team now to move this portfolio further. And today, we want to forget a bit on the challenges, because probably, you know, every year in June, we have Hydrogen Valley Days, where we focus a lot on challenges, we focus a lot on what it is that we have to overcome. Today we wanted to focus on progress, at least on the slides to come. I will do my best to show you what have we achieved with this portfolio. This is where we are. We've covered already different elements of the value chain. Hydrogen valleys are there, integrating all the different elements of the hydrogen value chain. This is better illustrated in here. I mean, if we think about a hydrogen valley, as Mirella said, this is something the joint undertaking came up with some years ago. We are really looking at projects that are somehow integrating the whole value chain. We are really looking at integrating the production of hydrogen, majorly using clean hydrogen, renewable hydrogen, and we are really talking about having shared infrastructure, which can come in different ways. It can come with hydrogen pipelines, physical pipelines, but it can come also through virtual pipelines, through the use of tube trailers. And then the main thing here is that we are bringing multiple end users. This is not one single end use type of projects, which of course they have their merits on its own, but here we are really trying to use and to bring, different end users together. Somehow valleys try to address this chicken and egg problem, where we bring production, and end uses in an integrated project. And of course, they are geographically focused. And somehow, the main driver is also to maximize the use of renewable energy sources through that. We started already in the former joint undertaking by developing demo projects. We were having basis projects. We were having small, micro, combined heat and power generation demonstration projects. With hydrogen valleys, we bring production and end uses. And eventually, what we believe we should say is that there will be an interconnection between those valleys, which somehow will help to create this large scale, but in a bottom-up way, market development. So that's a little bit the context of what we do. And it's fair to say that, first of all, we are building on decades of R&I support. This is only possible as the technology matures. And since 2015, where we already had the first hydrogen valley, if you want, we were calling it hydrogen territory with the Big Hit project, we started to support, and especially and thanks to the REPowerEU top-up that we had in 2022 on the back of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we had 200 million euros, and we started to support hydrogen valleys at a much larger pace and in a larger scale. So that's really support to pre-FID, pre-final investment decision, including CapEx. This is a bit what we cover with our annual call for proposals. But then we saw that there were many that were not ready to implement and to deploy projects. So we put into place as well already in 2016, 17, together working with regions, we started to provide project development assistance. So we were helping project promoters. At the time, they were mainly driven by public authorities, public bodies, to develop their ideas and to convert them into actionable project plans. This is what we refer with project development assistance. And of course, as our funding is limited, we did a lot of work with national and regional public bodies to leverage funding. And one result of that was the signature of Memorandum of Cooperation with 10 managing authorities across Europe in a way to see how we could best combine funding and to put together the investments that these projects require. This is what we have. Okay, this is really projects that are currently being financed. We have a total of 21 hydrogen valleys. One of them has finished, the Big Hit project, so fair to say we have 20 ongoing valleys. You can see that they are very much scattered across Europe, geography. And it's important to realize that we have 40 countries involved. Not that we have valleys being deployed in 40 countries, but this is the countries that are involved, whether it is on the deployment of the valley itself, but also on different horizontal activities that the valleys include. It's about replication as well. This is very important. We are a European program, so we have to have a European added value. But there are also different analyses, expertises that are needed, looking, for instance, at life cycle analysis assessments, the evaluation of the socioeconomic impact. So all these partners come together in all these projects, and we have close to 500 partners. Valleys being deployed across 19 countries, and we are funding them with 250 million euros, and we have leveraged at least 1,300 million euros with those projects. So this is what we do in terms of support through the annual call for proposals. I've mentioned before, it's not enough. So we are also helping to move projects idea into project concepts that can be implementable, all the way and accompanying project developers to the journey up to final investment decision. This is what we've done with the project development assistance. And now we are encompassing all these activities in the so-called Hydrogen Valleys facility, which has 3 main blocks. We will hear more on the details. But let me just briefly share that the Hydrogen Valleys facility is somehow a one-stop shop for anyone that wants to move hydrogen valley projects further. We have a very important element there on the project development assistance. We will be supporting up to 40 hydrogen valleys. We are currently supporting 15, and you can see them here with the little bookmark in the map. We have a knowledge center, which is not only about material, but it's also going to be a real-life exchange between project developers, between all the stakeholders that we need. It's not only about the developers, but it's also about, for instance, the permitting authorities that have to grant permission for these projects. We will have guidance, but we will have peer-to-peer exchanges. We will have webinar experts. And then we continue with the activities of the Hydrogen Valley platform, which somehow is looking globally to accommodate all the hydrogen valleys that are currently ongoing. And we are very happy to say that for the first time, we have gone over hosting more than 100 valleys in the platform. And this is all put into a context. Let's don't forget, there is an aspiration of the European Union to have 50 valleys in operation or under construction by 2030. So, as you can see, the numbers are somehow accumulating. We are in a good way, not sure if to achieve that, but certainly we are creating the pipeline of projects that is needed. So I said, today is not about the challenges. We wouldn't have time to do that, but I want to end up my introduction to our portfolio with what we have achieved. If you think about the portfolio of these 21 projects that I've mentioned, and we do a bottom-up analysis, we come with some indicative plans. And I say indicative because you know very well these projects are changing. Some off-takers that you consider may have some issues along the way of the development of a project, so they may change. But if we did a picture today and we did a bottom-up analysis, we are looking at deploying 600 megawatts of electrolyzer capacity with around 60,000 tons of hydrogen production. Very interesting there because this is double, approximately, of what our calls require. We have a minimum requirements for production, and this is about the double, which means that even if our funding is limited, it seems that projects are leveraging additional investment not only to fulfill our requirements, but to actually go beyond. I've depicted here a bit on the distribution and storage as well. We are foreseeing 100 kilometers of hydrogen pipelines, 50 HRS, tube trailers, and large amounts of underground storage as well. We heard some of the projects yesterday. Some of them are actually linked to our valleys, and that you will see that also later on. And if we look at the end uses, it's fair to say that industry is driving the off-takers in these projects, but we cannot undermine also the amount of transport off-takers that we are having. And I put there a little bit of detail. If you put together more than 150 buses, 200 heavy-duty trucks, and so on and so forth. Again, this is indicative, so let's take it like this. And to put it in perspective, I was reading actually recently an update from Hydrogen Europe. The total electrolytic capacity by Q3 25, it's around 580 megawatts in Europe. And in Q3 25, an additional, and let me read it now, 465 have taken FID. So I think the numbers somehow compare, and I'm only raising that to give an order of magnitude because I don't think it has to be undermined also the volumes that we are having here. So, what progress do we have? This is a little bit looking at production, storage, and distribution. You have here different projects. We have, for instance, electrolyzer up and running in Mallorca in the Green Highland project. We are very happy, and we heard yesterday from the Baltic Sea where they got the Valley Award yesterday. 20 megawatt of electrolyzer already in operation, and very soon we will have additional 30 in Greece in the Trieres project. 10 megawatt will come in France, in the Rhône-Alpes region, and then I wanted to put that there because this is a 6 megawatt capacity of a former project that we supported, which is a Hy2Future project, which is now going to be integrated in a valley in Austria. So I think you can start here already of the different synergies, collaborations that we are somehow having. On storage, we have done important tests on the salt caverns. We will hear later that was in Netherlands. The same in the Hipster project, which is one of our storage projects, has done all what is needed to allow the large-scale deployment of underground storage in the Imagine project I just mentioned. And looking at distribution, we are starting to see hydrogen pipelines implemented. In Mallorca, there is already a 3 kilometers dedicated hydrogen pipeline. HRS is coming in France and in Greece. One example there, we are not supporting all these investments. You can imagine our funding is limited, but the stations, for instance, in Greece are supported by the Connecting Europe facility. So again, programs working together. And on the distribution, 5 tube trailers already deployed, and 8 more are coming very soon in the Imagine project in France. So that's a little bit what we have. Off-takers remain, of course, being an issue. We heard that in any project. By bringing the production and the off-takers together, we somehow, as I mentioned before, trying to address this chicken and egg problem. But we already have 5 buses in operation in Mallorca, 7 coaches in France in the Imagine project, together with 4 buses and 1 truck. Heaven, one of the, well, actually I should say the first hydrogen valley, as we call it, hydrogen valley. A lot focus on different off-takers. They are looking at garbage trucks that have been deployed. We have taxi fleets, a salt barge. I think we heard yesterday about this configuration of the waterborne sector with a lot of SMEs. That salt barge actually, it has been developed by a by a company. It's one person, basically it's a family business. They invested themselves together with our funding on a salt barge that is transporting salt from Rotterdam to the northern east of Netherlands. And then on the energy, we are having injection in the gas grid in Mallorca, fuel cells for heat and power coming, and then in industry we already have some end uses secured for steel production will come soon in Austria. Domestic heating in heaven is also starting to come with some dedicated boilers at the individual level, and then some hydrogen use as feedstock, mainly for synthetic fuel production. So that's a bit what we have on the end uses, just a quick snapshot. And to end up, I think it was good to look a bit how the support has somehow evolved since 2002, where we were given, if you want to put it like this, additional 200 million to implement through an existing program. So what we've tried to do in here is first to offer us stable support. I think that has been very helpful, independent of people applying to our programs and not getting the funding. People were coming and saying to us, look, it's already very helpful to prepare a proposal because I'm bringing all the stakeholders together. And that stability of support has helped them to continue, even if not sufficient funding was available for all. We believe we are offering the needed flexibility for this type of projects to accommodate the changes we've mentioned. And we have tailor-made instruments. You've seen the support to pre-FID plus CAPEX, but then we also have the project development assistance together with other parts of the program, like skilling. We have a dedicated program project to train the permitting authorities that I've mentioned before. So we, of course, tap into those horizontal activities that we support. And that is done with a focus on the European value added. We are really fostering the use of a fully European supply chain in our projects when possible. And that, as I mentioned, can only be done together in alignment with national and regional authorities for different reasons, strategic ones, but also in terms of funding. Our funding is limited. These projects get around 10, 20, 30% of all the investments that are needed coming from us. The remaining 70 has to come from elsewhere. And now to end up, we're already thinking ahead a bit, and I'm not talking about the next year where we will support hydrogen valleys in a very similar way as we have done it until now, but we're really thinking a bit, and in line with what Luigi presented, what could we do next, no? And how are we going to use the lessons learned from this support that we've given over the last years? We could, for instance, intensify the support to the pre-final investment decision activities by having more to that stage where you are really having to do all the investments without yet having secured the project. That will reduce, of course, and reduce the risk for project developers. We could have a dedicated CAPEX support a bit more agile, but somehow conditional to reaching an FID, to having maybe off-taker contracts. We are looking at considering market activation programs, support to OPEX, what it could look like. It is really something to be looking at. And I think we really need some synergies by design. I will end up by saying that we've really tried to streamline how we can work together with national authorities. It has not been easy because the way the programs are designed, but really we are talking about probably things like grants as a service that we could offer for regional authorities so we can manage the grants. They could transfer the funds to us directly, so then you gain from the efficiencies of implementing the budgets through one single program. So these are all thoughts looking ahead. And yeah, I think I will just end up by bringing you to areas of our website where you can have additional information. This year, we have created dedicated faxes per project. They are available in our website. Portfolio level information in those links that you have. And then very likely in 2026, we may have another Hydrogen Valley Days. You have there the information about the one we had in 2025. And that's a little bit all what I wanted to say. So thank you very much, and yeah, hope it was useful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Antonio. And indeed, a lot of learnings, a lot of activities, and yes, already looking forward, and really happy again, and glad and looking forward to work together with our private members, and why not European Commission, on this, based also on the strategic staff working document that the Commission published last year on valleys. So we have a lot of work to do, and we have the expertise in the team in the GU to do that. Now, allow me to, and I did it on purpose, I have not introduced the rest of the team that works on valleys, because I would like to take the time now. And allow me to introduce the second member of the team working on Valley, Renata Kadric. She's one of the project officers, but also our synergies officer. She has a lot of experience in also in combining funding, and that's why her role in the team. And Renata will moderate for the next hour. Let's take a bit more time, I think it's important. Moderate a discussion on the valleys. Renata, my pleasure.
Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to moderate this very interesting session. Antonio had a great introduction in terms of overview of our portfolio and what we did and where we are going next. But I think that the most interesting for all of us is to hear directly from the projects. So then I will have the pleasure to first invite our first presenter, which is the project Heaven. So we are starting from Netherlands. You remember our map, so we go first with Netherlands. And please, Tatiana Blok, Senior Project Manager from the New Energy Coalition. Tatiana.
Well, good morning, everybody. I've been invited to present Heaven, although Antonio gave already a lot of info about what we're doing there. But I'm going to dive a little bit more on what are the success factors that allow us to do everything that was shown in our previous presentation. So I am Senior Project Manager for the New Energy Coalition. I've been working with Heaven, the consortium, for 4 years now, and I'm also involved in the Green Highland project. I see my colleagues here in the audience as well. So I'm going to share some of the experiences that we have in hydrogen valleys today. So Heaven has been pioneering the green hydrogen economy in the north of the Netherlands for 5 years now. And what I'm going to talk you through today is about how we came up with Heaven and why, most importantly. I'm going to try to explain the complex project as Heaven in a nutshell. So that's the main challenge. And as I mentioned, talk about the pillars of success for implementing innovation action and what is next for us in the remaining time of the project. So Heaven was born 5 years ago, was designed in the context of a situation in the north of the Netherlands where we have been an energy hub for decades. We have in the north of the Netherlands one of the largest natural gas fields. And a couple of years ago, it was announced the imminent cease of the production of the natural gas reservoir in the region. Therefore, there was a need an urgency from the local government and the businesses to develop, to come up with a plan for the economy of the region. And the idea of hydrogen valleys was just starting to come to the scene, and we found the opportunity to get funding for the region through the program of the Clean Hydrogen Partnership to develop the project. We also have several elements that allow us to have our first hydrogen valley in the region. We have existing natural gas infrastructure that can be repurposed for the transport of hydrogen. We have the high potential of offshore wind coming from the North Sea, and users represented by chemical clusters, 2 chemical clusters that I'm going to talk about later. Of course, urban mobility, and as I mentioned, more importantly, the ambition of the region to have a project like this. So we are located in the very north of the Netherlands. We are covering 2 provinces. It's a large area, the provinces of Groningen and Drenthe. And I already mentioned what are the main objectives, but basically is to improve the economy, boost the local economy, decarbonize it, and bring a positive impact to the society and the environment by the creation of new jobs in this new economy that we are developing. And our budget for the activities that we are implementing is around 97 million euros, of which 20 million have been funded by funded by the European Union. We started with a program of 5 years, and of course we started in 2020 with COVID, an unforeseen factor that had impacted our execution of activities, and well, other factors that led us to have requested an extension of 2 years. So now we are planning to end the project in 27. And Heaven is a program, where we are coordinating 19 projects that are taking place in different locations. And by design, we set a program that is in order to manage the program, we divided the activities in clusters. 4 clusters that are present in the project. 2 are mainly devoted to decarbonization of industry by using hydrogen as an energy vector, and also as a feedstock for industrial processes. We are considering green mobility, and last but not least, we have something that makes our project very unique. We are testing also the injection of hydrogen in salt caverns, and testing also the use in houses. So we have a partnership of 30 partners. It's a public-private partnership. 30 partners representing 7 European countries, of which 40% are of the partners are around 40% are SMEs, and we have 7 replication partners that I also see in the room present. So the next steps, or what I want to tell you now, is what are the key elements that make us a success for us to be able to develop or to deploy the taxis that we talked about already, HRSs in the region. And the partnership has been, the public-private partnership has been a success factor indeed. We have these large companies investing in end user, in the production of hydrogen and the end user at industrial level, and that also motivates SMEs to invest and take risks, and they have brought also flexibility and innovation to the project, and those are the first one actually to be able to develop early and deploy their activities, execute their planned activities in the project. Public sector plays a role, I will explain later, and it's a double role because they are creating or encouraging the end use of hydrogen and helping creating factor, and because they are part of our partnership, we are working together in streamlining processes in permitting and regulatory matters for the project. So in terms of the applications in the industrial parks, we have investments that are shared, investments that are done to develop shared infrastructure for regional logistics. So we have 2 hubs where we are developing pipelines to connect supply and demand in 2 locations, from Eindhoven to Delft, and we are also, was mentioned, one of our flagship end users and development has been the ship that runs on hydrogen in between 2 locations through the canals in the Netherlands. And we have facilitated also the use of hydrogen in industrial heating generation. And this is the slide that I mentioned, that we are going to have, we are having the municipalities playing an active role in the deployment of hydrogen technology and the use of hydrogen, motivating and promoting the use of hydrogen and as part of this market creation. So we have the municipality of Groningen deploying trucks that generates jobs because the company that has developed the trucks is part of the ecosystem in Groningen, but it's not part of our consortium. So you see what is the impact, immediate impact of the hydrogen valley in the local economy. As well, in the hydrogen district of the municipality of Hoogeveen, we are promoting the use of in-houses. And that brings me to the next slide, because the municipality of Hoogeveen has had a very intensive program and planning and execution of how to engage the communities in these neighborhoods so they can understand the technology that they're going to use, accept it. Most importantly, they have been part of the decision process on how this technology will be part of their day-to-day life in their houses. And I want to take the opportunity to invite you to a webinar that we're going to be holding tomorrow online. And you have here the registration link, the QR code, so you can learn about what is our key learnings and best practices for communication activities on participation, public participation. Additionally, Highstock is the partner that has been testing salt caverns to prove that we can inject hydrogen in salt caverns that formerly stored natural gas, and now we want them to be used to store hydrogen. And they also have been having a lot of activities connecting with the communities. And the knowledge transfer has been part of our success in the deployment. The safety testing in the wells for the injection of hydrogen is an example how knowledge that was created in the oil and gas industry has been transferred to an application of hydrogen in the field. Of course, retraining and skilling staff has been an element to be able to perform these tests. And we are doing, what I have shown so far is a lot of the deployment, but of course we have a research program and a replication program that is part of our key activities. And we are collaborating with other partners and hydrogen valleys to develop the hydrogen territory platform. That is one of the tools that can allow to develop new hydrogen valleys in the future. And last but not least, we want to share what is next for us. Heaven has been running for 5 years. We still have 2 more years to go. And our main goal is to keep the program relevant for our stakeholders in the region, and of course align with the national plans for the energy transition and also European goals. So we are going to maintain our shared vision with the partners and our stakeholders, enable communication and collaboration across the borders to, when we're thinking about scaling up the hydrogen valley, we need to think about, we have to think about how to engage with the regions that are around us, our neighbors, to develop the infrastructure that it will be connected in the future. And for us, having more and more activities, we're in communication, we are increasing the impact, we are inspiring hydrogen valleys, not only here in Europe, but also we have visitors from Latin America 9 countries have been in our valley, knowing what, and getting to know what they were doing, very curious, from India, all over the world. It has the eyes on heaven, and we are sharing our knowledge and our experience on that. More importantly, I think the most important factor is that we have had, during these 5 years, a clear vision of what we want to achieve in the region for 2030, 2040. And although we have had some up and downs during the 5 years of execution, the vision is clear, is there, and we're still working towards the same goals that we set 5 years ago. And with that, I conclude my presentation. And please visit us in our website and contact us if you want more information.
Thank you, Tatiana. If I'm not mistaken, we're moving to France now. And I invite on the stage Jean Fabrice from region Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes. Floor is yours.
Hello, good morning. Thanks a lot for the invitation. My name is Jeanne Fabreguet. I'm a policy officer within the Brussels office of the Regional Council of Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes, and I will present you today the Imagine project, which is the large-scale valley we are deploying in Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes. So the region is located in southeast of France, and since several years now, we do believe that hydrogen is a key solution to decarbonize specific segment of our economy. So first of all, for a bit of context, Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes is the first region producing a renewable energy in France. We do produce a lot of hydroelectricity as well as fuel wood, but also PVs and biogas. We are also the first industrial regions. We gather more than 285 companies working on hydrogen, and among them 36 are only dedicated to hydrogen activities, which represent a large number of jobs. These companies mainly operate to decarbonize the energy production, but also to deploy intensive and heavy-duty mobilities. And last, stakeholders, which are also really important, we do gather 44 research facilities, and to quote Luigi Crema just before, these research facilities are deploying the hydrogen systems of tomorrow. So before going to the Imagine project, or Valley, I wanted to explain a bit more the background, because Imagine was not the first project we were working on. Since 2017, we have been deploying the Zero Emission Valley, which is not a hydrogen valley strictly speaking, but it was financed by Safe Transport money, as well as the National Fund ADEME. The aim with the Zero Emission Valley was to deploy an HRS network alongside some vehicles, so light-duty vehicles, but also heavy-duty ones. The region actually invested in 50 regional coaches that are being deployed since September 2025. We do have already some 16 of them operating. And to deploy this network of HRS and these vehicles, we created the public-private partnership entitled Impulsion. The region is the main shareholder, but is also alongside other main stakeholders of the territory, which are Michelin, Engie, but also the Crédit Agricole and the Banque des Territoires. And this company who are deploying right now the station and ensuring that the refueling system is actually working. So this project was starting to deploy in 2017, and then we felt the need to really structure our activity as a regional authority. So we published our first regional hydrogen strategy, which is based on 4 axes, so support the hydrogen production and the main end uses, which are mobility and industry, but also support to R&D, because as a regional authority, we do have some competencies on that matter, but also support to skills and training. We do also have some projects regarding the development of adequate skills for operating these hydrogen technologies, and fosters international cooperation in European, and I will come back a bit more into details later. So regarding the skills and training aspects, in 2022 we joined the consortium of the Green Skills for Hydrogen project, which aimed to develop a pilot trainings program to make sure that the needs in terms of skills are actually met. This was an Erasmus Plus program, and it's actually going to end next year. There will be a final conference in Brussels in March, I suppose. So if you're interested in getting a bit more knowledge of what we deploy within this project, I invite you to join us. Now, I believe we can move on the Imagine project. So in a nutshell, the Imagine project is a large-scale valley that we won during the call of 2023. It gathers 35 partners, which are coordinated by the Regional Council of Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes. With Imagine, we really wanted to scale up the deployment of the hydrogen economy, for doing so, we really worked on the existing synergies that were already in the regions throughout the different projects I mentioned, but also because of our rich and dynamic industrial and research ecosystem. In order to scale up, we wanted to complete the value chain, so really to cover the whole value chain from production, storage, transport, distribution, and end uses, which are mainly industry and heavy mobility. And also there was a strong willingness to make the link with the other European valleys and projects throughout the project. So if we're going a bit more into details on the value chain, the Imagine project aimed to deploy 40,000 tons of renewable hydrogen with an electricity capacity of 27 megawatts. We will have a storage capacity that was mentioned just before with salt cavern storage, but also some transport infrastructure, so one pipeline actually relying this storage capacity to a broader pipeline, but also some tube trailers. For distribution, we will have the HRS station, but we will continue deploying some heavy mobility, as well as working on industrial and energy application. So now if we're going a bit more on the ground, this is a bit how the Imagine project is deploying and actually building on what were already existing. So as I mentioned, we wanted really to ensure we cover the whole value chain, so we have integrated some H2 production. And since the region has also strong competences in terms of spatial plannings and economic development, we decided to structure these hydrogen production sites around the main industrial areas of the regions. So for example, in the east part of Lyon, you will find the Chemical Valley, which offer really strong potential to decarbonize. Then in the north part, just in the north of Bourg-en-Bresse, you'll see the Hipster project, which is already financed by the GU, but also integrated into our project because they're really aiming to deploy 44 tons of salt cavern. And you'll see that this storage is actually linked via pipeline to this green arrow. This green arrow represents the approximate route of the IFEN project, which is an 800-kilometer pipeline relaying Marseille to Germany, and also part of a broader project called H2Med, which aims to connect Portugal, Spain, France, and Germany as part of the European hydrogen backbone. So in terms of transport infrastructure, you do also see the tube trailers that will actually connect the different HRS to the producers of hydrogen. And we also worked with Imagine in bringing new clients in terms of mobility, so it will be mainly heavy mobility to actually operate the actual HRS. And we also included other stakeholders, such as the airport of Lyon-Saint-Exupéry. So as you can see on the map, the value chain is really located on our territory, but we also have a strong focus on the connection of the project to other valleys. So you'll see on red the hydrogen corridor that I just mentioned within the IFEN project, but we are also having a lot of associated and observer partners that are coming from other valleys or other pretending valleys. And also here in Brussels, we are working really closely with the Clean Hydrogen Partnership, but also with the S3 Hydrogen Valleys Partnership that we are coordinating with our colleagues from Northern Netherlands, but also with other networks such as ERIN, to make sure that what we are learning with Imagine actually spreads and help other valleys and pretender valleys. I think I will stop on that note for sake of time, and I'm happy to continue the discussion during the panel.
Thank you, Jeanne. So now from France, we're moving to Luxembourg, And I invite Bradley Ladovic, coordinator of Lux High Val project.
Thanks, Renata. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all. I will go through quite quickly and maybe not show all of the slides to get us back on time. So our business case for Hydrogen Valley in Luxembourg, actually, you've all been sitting for a while, so let's do interaction. So put your hand up if you've been to Luxembourg. Okay, that's about 65% of the room. Keep your hand up if you rode on public transport when you were in Luxembourg. That's most of the others. And all of you, I hope, did it recently, and you would remember that public transport in Luxembourg is completely free. Yeah, it's the only European country having completely free public transport. And actually, that's one of the two elements of our business case is public transport. So most of the public transport in Luxembourg is achieved with buses. You may not know that. We only have one tram line, and we have very limited rail infrastructure. It's actually quite a sad point for Luxembourg that our rail infrastructure is so poor. But we have a lot of buses, and they are nearly all privately owned buses, and they are operated under contract with the state to provide this public transport. Long-term stable contracts, they bid for them, it's a competitive system, and they are required to deliver a certain quantity of those passenger kilometres with zero-emission vehicles. And today they do it with electric buses. Okay? But there's two big challenges. These are not my prepared remarks, by the way. I'm having much more fun. There's two big challenges with just completely electrifying the whole fleet. Okay? The first one is, does anyone want to guess? Put your hand up if you know what are the two challenges. I'm a teacher, by the way. I'm a professor at the University of Luxembourg, so if you don't understand why I'm asking you to interact. We had one hand down the front. What's the first challenge, Renata? She doesn't know, but what she meant to say was it's the grid. So the public grid of Luxembourg, if you replaced every diesel bus with an electric bus tomorrow, even in 5 years, you could not charge them all overnight, which is when they need to be charged. The grid wouldn't support it. And even more sensibly, you can't put charging locations everywhere. You need to put them where the buses are parked overnight, which is in massive depots. And those depots are actually at 100% saturation now. They cannot support any more charging at those depots. So we can't massively overnight expand the electrification of the public buses in Luxembourg. What's the second one? Anyone know? Our country has some hills. It's not completely flat like the Netherlands. And it's very cold in winter. So how well do electric buses perform in very cold conditions on hilly routes? The answer is not well. Yeah, it's getting better and better, but still not well. And even the very best electric buses delivered from the OEMs today can't drive some of the routes in Luxembourg for a single shift for one driver in winter over the hills. So for those particular routes, there's a very good business case to replace them with hydrogen fuel cell or hydrogen combustion or hydrogen hybrid buses. Our second business case is for industry, and I'll talk more about that. We have a wonderful consortium. We have energy operators, we have engineering support, we have our end users in mobility and industry, and we have the supporting organisations like the university, like LIST, Luxembourg Institute of Science and Technology, which is represented here today, and partners in other European countries as well, including our replication partners in the Czech Republic and the Ukraine. So we are actually trying to help push forward hydrogen valleys in Central and Eastern Europe through Lux High Val. Our project is organised very simply. We have one major company, Enovos, which is partly state-owned, which will be the owner of the core piece of infrastructure. And you'll see in the last slide, Luxembourg is, and the Luxembourg Hydrogen Valley is small, simple, and not sexy. So that's what Luxembourg is famous for. We like things to stay as they are, and to stay as they are in Luxembourg today means stable and wealthy. That's what Luxembourg is very famous for, and we would like it to stay that way. So Enovos is a very stable company. It came from the state-owned power sector. Now it's partly state-owned. Lux Energy will be the operator. Lux Energy owns and operates 26 cogeneration facilities right across Luxembourg, some tri-generation facilities. If you go to visit the European institutions located on the Kirchberg Peninsula, all of those buildings, the European Investment Bank, the Parliament, the European Stability Mechanism, all of those institutions are heated, cooled and powered by Lux Energy. I've been to their biomass-fired facility. It's on the Kirchberg Peninsula, very clean, very modern. Even in summer, they use absorption chillers to provide cooling to those buildings. So we have a great, very stable, very well-integrated company in the Luxembourg energy sector that will actually operate our facility from their remote control room facility. And of course, we have Ceratizit, which is our main industrial off-taker in phase 1 of our project. And we have another company which is directly adjacent to our infrastructure. They are literally our neighbour, and they consume hydrogen in glass making. And we don't have them as an off-taker right now, but we're very likely to get them in the future. But for very pragmatic reasons, it's easier to do deals with European companies than it is to do deals with American-owned companies like Guardian. So our Hydrogen Valley, we're very grateful for the support from the DAY2, and I adjusted the presentation today. It's not the typical presentation, it's tuned to the questions that come afterwards. So what could be done to take it further? Because actually our valley is really on track. We're going to take an investment decision soon. We're going to build it. We're going to deliver the hydrogen. So now I'm already looking past the end of our valley. What's Luxembourg 2 going to look like? What's the next thing? The next thing is we need more private investment. Okay, we need more companies to take the brave decision to say we will decarbonise our operations and do it partly through hydrogen. Okay, and what do they need to be able to make that brave decision? They need to see that someone else did it first. No one wants to be first. They want to see another, ideally Luxembourgish company that also invested, took some hydrogen from our facility, they paid a reasonable price for it, it was delivered very reliably, it was very stable, and that they can invest on that basis. So we want to get right on with our first off-takers so that we can deliver hydrogen to them, they can drive their buses, they can operate their factory with hydrogen, and they can tell their friends. Okay? Luxembourg's a very small, very tight network, especially at the industrial level. The industry has its own association called FEDIL, and they network very, very tightly. So if you do a good job in industry in Luxembourg, the rest of the industry will find out very quickly. The converse also applies. If you mess it up, that will also be very well known very quickly. So we don't want to mess it up. And we want to drive forward this multi-offtake ecosystem. By the way, heating in my slide doesn't mean taking hydrogen and burn it for heating. Okay? In our slide, heating means we would like to operate electrolyzers and find a viable offtake for the waste heat. Okay? It greatly increases the efficiency of your system if you can find a willing offtaker for low temperature heat. Okay? It's a very difficult business case, but if you're in the right place, and we think, someone was probably going to ask that question later, so I'll answer it now. Brad, where do you think that place will be in future? Well, Brad says wastewater treatment plants. Okay, this is the next big thing that we are looking for in our region, is to try and target wastewater treatment plants who have to make big investments over the years ahead. In Luxembourg alone, in the sum of hundreds of millions of dollars must be spent on our wastewater treatment plants to bring them up to the standards required, which are in that sector means the 4th cleaning standard, and which is often done with ozonation. Ozonation requires oxygen, and all wastewater treatment plants consume heat. So we hope there's a good business case in the future. Luxembourg 2, watch this space. Maybe you'll get a bid in your next big funding round for a second Luxembourg Hydrogen Valley based on wastewater treatment plants. We work very closely with the government in Luxembourg, with the ministries, to try and keep them on our side. They work very closely with us. I think CO2 pricing is a really critical one. The implementation of RED3 will be quite critical for the next phase, especially with mobility. But there's a lot we could talk about there. The job development, we do think there will be job development, but be realistic, it's not talking about thousands of jobs in a country the size of Luxembourg. But we work closely with we have very, very good partnership with other European projects. So Green Sky, if you know about it, is an Interreg funded project in Northwest Europe that develops on skills development for hydrogen. So we work very synchronized with them. These are our off-takers from industry and from mobility. And this slide, like I said, Luxembourg, we want to be known for being stable and reliable and keeping things the same. this is actually nothing greatly different from what we put in our funding application and what's in our grant agreement. And I'm always so proud to come to these things and say, we are only a few months behind on our work schedule that we had in our original funding agreement. So the procurement phase for our core piece of infrastructure, which is not insignificant, it's a single EPC contract that will be likely in the order of 20 million euros. So that's a very big contract to award. It's a very complex procurement process, and we have to follow public procurement processes because of the nature of a Novos. But it is proceeding. Okay, so it's down to the second stage. The second stage has closed. The final 3 bidders have submitted, and they're in the detailed negotiation stage now. So we are, and everything's technically and financially in the region of what can be agreed for our business case. So that means there's a very, very good possibility in the first quarter of 2026 that we make the final investment decision, issue the purchase order, get on with the procurement of the infrastructure, and for our mobility operators, they will synchronise their orders for their hydrogen buses at the same time. Okay? So that's our work package structure, and this is the final slide. This is what the Luxembourg Hydrogen Valley will look like, and this is where it will be. So we went to heaven last week. We had a wonderful time there, and there's a lot of great stuff to see. Everyone goes to heaven, apparently, from India, from South America. Do you know how many people I've had come to Luxembourg and say, Brad, can we visit Lux High Val? Null. 0. No one has come. So apparently Luxembourg's not a sexy place. But we are going to build in the former industrial southwest of Luxembourg our infrastructure. We should break ground next year. It's on an industrial park. It's not the most exotic place. But we're going to build it. And it will be clean, it will be green, it will be silent. Buses will get refueled with hydrogen. Industry will be provided with hydrogen that allows them to decarbonise and continue to operate sustainably in Luxembourg. So we are very proud of what we do. It's small, it's compact. We are the small valley with 2 large valleys speaking before us and another large valley speaking after us. But it's just the right size for our industry and for our location in Luxembourg. So we are getting on with it. This is what it will look like. And I hope if I give this talk in a year's time, I can show you 3/4 of the construction done. And we're aiming for first quarter or second quarter 2027 for the first production of RFNBO certified hydrogen in Luxembourg. Thank you for your attention.
And finally, we finish in Austria. So I invite Margareta Matzer, coordinator of Hydrogen Industrial Valley.
Yeah, thank you from my side. I'm Margareta. I'm coordinating the Hydrogen Industrial Inland Valley, and I'm from Viva P&G. And we started this year, so we saw in the other valleys what they already did and what the output is. We started this year. So I would like to tell you more how we come to become a hydrogen valley. And this is why I want to start with Viva P&G. That's the organization I'm from. Viva P&G is a research association. We have 28 members from the industry and from the research sector. And we coordinate already since 2018 hydrogen valleys all over Austria. These projects are focused on climate neutral or hydrogen and other climate neutral gases, and are demonstrating and testing projects. So we have some studies, but most of them are really projects where we build there something. And when I say we have the projects already since 2018, here's the map where we have this project. This was the project map we had before we started with the Hydrogen Valley. And with this project, we already got the Hydrogen Valley of the year 2023. Even if we told ourselves not directly Hydrogen Valley, that we were not funded from the EU, but we hold this all together. And so they said, yeah, it's a Hydrogen Valley. And we agreed, it's a Hydrogen Valley already, but not that focused. And that's how we came to the conclusion, maybe we should really then stick it even more together, even better together, as we already did. And since Austria, it's not a big country, but it's even a little bit too big for a large hydrogen valley, we decided we want to have several hydrogen valleys. And that's why we started with the one in the beginning, in the middle, you see, from there around Linz down to, have a laser here? Yeah, here. There are most of the projects. They are already here. So we decided we start here with a hydrogen project, Hydrogen Valley, and that's how we become the Hydrogen Industrial Inland Valley. The industry partners, and some of the regional industry partners came to us and say, please, we want to have there a hydrogen valley. At some part, we had to go there, and we had also the contact with the governments of this free region in Austria, Upper Austria, Styria, and Carinthia, and they supported us through the whole process. So that's our hydrogen valley. We have 17 projects we want to pursue. There along the whole value chain, as it has to be in a hydrogen valley, of course. Here you have the numbers. We get the EU funding of 20 million, but all in all, our budget is 588 million. We don't have all the funding yet. 330 million comes from our partner by themselves. Then we have some funding already there. I can tell you later a little bit of one of the projects where we are after the FID decision already, so they have the funding. And some of the others, we hope to get the national funding. The progress looks good at the moment. We have 44 partners, and we were going on for 6 years. We want to install 100 megawatt electrolyzer, which means 10,000 tons hydrogen per year. I'm not doing this alone. We have 44 partners. Here you see all these partners. They are Austrian partners and international partners, research partners, big concern, small bus companies. So we have all really a big mixture of different partners there. What is our focus? What will we do? We want to strengthen, of course, the whole hydrogen valley chain, from the production, storage, distribution to end use. We have this free region, want to make open access for the hydrogen pipelines, because Austria is an inland. We want to produce as much hydrogen as possible, but want to be ready at the moment where we want to connect to other hydrogen valleys to import hydrogen from the other countries. So it is important to have the connection to all the pipelines here. And of course, that we want to lower the emission, as it is the plan in every valley. I showed you already this map, but I want now to go more deeper, because we have this free region. I start with Upper Austria. In Upper Austria, we have the most reasonable one is the high-force melt. When you were there yesterday, you heard about that the H2 Future facility in Austria helped to get the High-2 Valley. That's correct, especially for this project. The high-force melt, it's about the steel industry. They already had this 6 megawatt electrolyzer, and now they make a pilot plant there for the steel industry, the same large as this electrolyzer is already there. This is also the project where we are. We have already the FID decision, and we started to build. Like, this is the one where they start to build the pilot already. Then we have the Retro H2, it's about shipping. This is only a study, because here we decided it's not mature enough already in Austria with the inland shipping. That's the only project we have as a study. Then we have the H2 Park Asten. This is where we want to have electrolyzer and use the oxygen as well there, because it's next to a waste plant. So we want to use all this part, and including the heat, what's come out for our housing, but not for burning by itself. We have the H2 Start network. Here we have the pipeline. We have all the grid provider included in our valley from this area. This is one of the one. This project is already well going on, because they need all the permission. They are in the process of the permission. They should get the permission in the next month. And then, of course, the technical change will only happen as soon as the H2 Park Asten and the electrolyzer in Satlet will come working, because then it's really needed, but they start already to have every permit there to be ready to go. And then we have the electrolyzer and the underground storage. Yesterday, if you were here, you heard Benedikt Hasiber von RAK. The EU had 2 stars. RAK is the main partner for this one, and this underground storage is also a part of our valley, like one specific underground storage they have here, so we are connected to this project as well. Then we are in Styria. In Styria we have the Dodawitz, the renewable gas field, and the fossil-free for industry are from one partner that's also a grid provider, and they want to install different sizes of electrolyzer for end use, and also here for the steel industry, and here, here for the tungsten industry. All of them are still waiting for some funding, but this one looks like it will come in the next month. Here we're waiting for a government decision in Austria to really get this started. When we have the Energiewerk Graz, Energiewerk Graz is similar to what we had already in Upper Austria at H2 Park Asten. It's next to a waste plant. We also want to use the oxygen, and we want to use the heat as well. So both projects are working closely together so that they learn from each other and then get further on. And there are already some parts started, not all of them, so it's not a final investment decision for the whole project, but for a few parts of it, it's there, but still some part we have to check. Then we have the B2H2. That's not an electrolyzer, that's a synthetic production of hydrogen. It's a small project we have included, but it's also for us to look if this will work or not. So it's one of our exotic ones we have, and then we have the green lime. Here again, electrolyzer and the lime industry included. And the last one is Carinthia. Here we have, with capture, electrolyzer, and the chemical industry, we have same here. There we have a mobility part, because Austria has a lot of mountains, more than Luxembourg, I would say. And there we have, of course, to check how the mobility is working there in this area. So we have their trucks, or we will have their trucks and buses, and especially checking how they work in the Alpine region. And then we have another, the cement industry, including here, and then decap, which is electrolyzer and mobility part. Here we are also already going on in this project. It's we are behind after the FID decision, I would say, because some parts are already built there. So that's from my side. As what's next, we are 6 years running. The first 2 years is planning. The second 2 years are implementation, and the last 2 years are operating. At some of the projects, we are already in the implementation phase. Most of them still in the planning phase. But so far, we are in our plan as we should be. And there my contact said, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Margarita. Yes. Please sit down, and I invite back to the stage Bradley, Tatiana, and Jean. Is the mic working? It's working. Okay, great. So thank you all for your very interesting presentation. I think it was very interesting for all of us to see where you are and what are your experiences. But based on your specific valleys and your specific, timeline in which you are, I have some questions for you. And I hope that we will also have a chance for the audience to ask a few questions. So we'll start with you, Tatiana, first. So Heaven is one of our most advanced valley. And as you said, there were some ups and downs. But as we are very much looking at the results of your project, we are also learning from you in terms of these downs, meaning challenges or issues. So my question is, what were some of the main issues and challenges you have encountered? And from this position today, would you do something different so that we'll learn from you a bit?
Yes. Well, as I mentioned, we started 5 years ago when the project was designed in 2019. And it was in that moment, I think what we did in terms of design with the information that we had at the moment, it was very well done. We have survived the 5 years despite having factors that were not maybe foreseen, like having a global pandemic interfering with the supply chain for the execution of the project, for instance. We also had to deal with a geopolitical situation here in Europe that was also, well, it might happen, but the probability of happening was very low at that moment. So we have had this environment that has been really, haven't had made our life any easier, especially for the partners that are deploying. They have faced incrementing costs. They have faced indeed. Restrictions in the acquisition of equipment, and this is also delaying our execution, and therefore we had to have an extension of 2 years. So, having said, what can we have done differently? I don't know. I think what we have, we did our best in terms of the design of the project. We identified risks. We have managed the risks as they have come. We have had a good communication with the stakeholders, and especially through Antonio, our project officer, in how to deal with the difficulties that the partners have faced, and maybe change slightly our plans, adjusting to the reality of the market that has not developed in the way that we were expecting. So I think it's more about how you deal with those changes during the process and the life of the execution of the project. That we can learn of it every day. We're learning.
Thank you, Tatiana. Margarita, as you have shown us, your valley is industrial valley, and it was very interesting to see that you said that the actual industrial partners came to you with the idea of this valley. So my question is, considering that you have so many different projects as EVT in the valley, how complex and difficult it is to manage all of these projects, the expectations, the different funding timelines? If you can share your experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, it is complex since, as I said, we have a really different or diverse consortium, from really small partners who had never an EU project before to large partners who have several EU projects already, to to research partners, industrial partners, EU partners. So it's really what they know and what they are standing before is totally different. But we decided that it's not possible that I by myself do it, so I have a regional coordinator for all of these 3 regions, and this regional coordinator comes from this region, is placed there, and this regional coordinator knows their partners even better. So it was important to have this regional coordinator, that they have a trustful communication with their partners, so that all the partners are on board. And I think this was one of the most important decisions we made, that because I'm sitting in Linz, so I'm sitting in Upper Austria, and the partner of Carinthia would be from us like, yeah, sorry, you have no idea how it works here. But I say, okay, I maybe don't know it, but I have a regional coordinator who is sitting there next to you. He knows, or she knows how it's going there. Then they are more trustful, and then we can communicate, and I think this was an important part. And together with this regional coordinator, of course there are some challenges, but I think we're doing well so far.
Thank you, Margarita. Bradley, a question for you. You said that the job market creation, it's not so relevant for Luxembourg, you're small, but I think that you, because of your unique position, you're coming from the university. Can you give us some kind of a view in terms of what can we do to have the solid, I would say, basis for the creation of the future job market related to the hydrogen sector?
From the university, that's our business, is education and training, and we do that every day. But I think the answer to your question is that has to change and evolve dynamically with the requirements from industry. And it's very difficult because it's dynamic. So you can't look at industry today and say, okay, we'll train engineers for what you need today. There's a very long time lag. You know, the people that we train now will start working in 5 and be productive in 10 years' time. So we have to, together with industry, talk to them and see, what would you like your employees to be able to do in 5 to 10 years' time? But it's a very challenging time to be working in universities and working in education, because the whole landscape of education is changing, especially with AI and big data, not just with the green transition that we mostly talk about here today. So, but we want to deliver the graduates that industry needs, and we do that for all of our industries in Luxembourg and the greater region. But we talk to the companies that will recruit the people that we educate and we train, and that's very regional. You know, this whole session is about working with the regions, and so we put a lot of effort into we have an industry advisory board, for example, and we talk to them about what do you expect in the graduates that come to you. So, and it builds on both the answers here as well, which is about regular communication with the partners, not just about what they need for their steel plant or what they need for their garbage collection trucks, but actually what they need for their employees as well.
Thank you, Bradley. And Jean, so yeah, the focus of this session today was on working with the region, and you have a unique position because you're representing one region. And Imagine is one of our rare valleys where we have regional authorities as a coordinator. So from your view, what are actually the benefits for the project of having a region as a coordinator?
Well, there is a lot. Now, I mentioned during my presentation the different competencies of the regions in terms of spatial planning, support to R&D, the economic development, skills as well. So there is kind of legitimacy of the regions, and especially in Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes, we did have this not this tradition, but to work with industry for like other topics, and it's especially true for hydrogen. But in the deployment of hydrogen, I completely agree with the colleagues on stage. The communication with the partners is really the key activities. And when we're looking at our private partners, we don't have to forget that they're also competitors. And for example, when we're like in this World Package 2 for production, we do have several companies that are competitors. And the fact that the region is neutral, we don't have any commercial interest, we are able to establish trust and therefore to gather the important information we need to actually closely monitor the improvement of the valley and in this case of the production of hydrogen.
Thank you, very interesting point, yeah. Do we have still time for questions from the audience? Are there any questions? Feel free. Yes. Feel.
Thank you. Good morning, citizens. My name is Angelos Harlaftis, Epafos Advisors. We represent the EcoWaves movement, the pan-European Mediterranean political movement. I represent the scientific team. The question is, hydrogen, of course, is very interesting, and the research you are doing is very important. But mainly the question, maybe only Antonio can respond, maybe I don't know. Antonio told that we invest 1.3 billion euro at this research of the valleys, because it's a research, an experiment. And the 20% is from your project, from the joint undertaking. The rest are state. How much is the private sector's participation? And the thing is, as an investor, if we see the thing as an investor, which are the citizens who invest actually, we all invest. Of course, they haven't passed a lot of years in this experiment and research. What are the results of this? So we don't...
Maybe I could answer it a little bit, because Antonio's not actually on the stage.
I don't mean
to really answer this question of co-investment from the companies...
No, just a moment. I don't mean the result to be a plus. Maybe it will be a minus, because we have a perspective for the future. But what are the results? Thank you.
Yeah, so the budget for our project in Luxembourg, so we have 8 million euro from the JU. Our total original expected invest was 39 million euro. Okay, so that's investment. That's buying buses, that's upgrading workshops so they can service the buses, upgrading factories so that they can take delivery of our green hydrogen, paying for the infrastructure to build it. We've secured those funds through a blend. It's European funds, it's national funds, but it's a very substantial investment from the companies that will operate. And when we look at their investment, it's not they're just investing money because hydrogen is green and it looks good in promotional material. They're buying pieces of equipment, like buses, that helps them fulfill their business function, which is to deliver people on public transit routes, in a way that allows them to fulfill their contracts. So, yeah, the investment funds in our side, 39 million euro over 5 years. What's the return on it? The return on it is we further decarbonise our public transport, and 64% of all the CO2 emissions in our country come from the transport sector. So it's not a nice to have thing. We must decarbonise transport in Luxembourg if we're going to meet our national contributions to the EU target. So it's not an optional investment, it's an investment that has to be made. And the second thing is the industrial offtake of hydrogen in our country. When you see industry, you can just equate that to jobs. You know, one of those factories has over 500 employees. They have a net revenue from their production in Luxembourg alone. This is Ceratizit, very high value, small parts, 1.3 billion euros per year, all exported, by the way. So if we keep that factory going with renewable hydrogen instead of fossil hydrogen, that preserves 500 jobs, and it preserves export earnings of 1.3 billion euros per year for Luxembourg. So it's not about creating new jobs for people that turn dials or refuel buses or something like that. That's trivial compared to preserving 500 high-skilled jobs in the manufacturing sector in the south of Luxembourg. So from our perspective, from the national perspective, the people we talk to, and the ministers that we talk to, the politicians that we engage with, it's a good investment. It allows us to continue to develop our country the way we want it to develop. We want it to be high-skilled, high-value manufacturing, and more than anything, green and sustainable. So it's 39 million euros. It preserves X number of jobs. It helps us decarbonise and meet our national requirements, not ambitions, not goals, actual requirements. So as far as we're concerned, as citizens, participants, and ministerial and government stakeholders, it's a good investment in Luxembourg.
Thank you. Thank you, Bradley, for excellent summary. Why are we doing all of this? We have still one question.
We have heard yesterday that there are many innovative technologies in production, storage, compression, etc. Some of them are getting mature now and ready to be deployed. However, they are not yet in the traditional commercial networks, let's say, so they are probably less visible if you are making traditional tenders, etc. So my question is, how do we connect the technologies that are developed in other projects with the valleys so that they can bring added value in the valley projects?
Who wants to take it? I think we even have some examples in our valleys where there is uptake of technology developed in previous projects, no? I think, yes. Margarita, you have one example.
Yeah, oh, there are direct examples. It's a little bit, I would have to think about it, but in our project, we have the connection. It's all the pilot project, so we have there this parts where you discussed yesterday with Benedikt Hasiba from RAK, where they have with the underground storage also the new technology, and this is now, it was before a project at WIFA already, and now it's even a bigger project where they have to look, it's working with the bigger part. And then we have the HY4 Smelt, for example. At the HY4 Smelt, we had before the HY4 project and the smelter projects, and it's in they were on a lower scale, and now they're giving up. Like really, this project is, can we scale it up? And if this works, we can scale it up as much as we want, because then it's really working. And so we have there the people including with this new development. But I have to say in Austria, they're mostly focusing with the research partner they already know, and together with the research partner in the industry, they provided the new technology. That's how it's working mostly in Austria. Because we have a lot of the research partner really in this field already. What's good, we need more, definitely more, but we have already some we can rely on.
Yeah, I have another example. In Heaven, it was mentioned yesterday by Mirella in the presentation, where we have an electrolyzer of 20 megawatts that is being developed in Eemshaven by one of a company, and the project is Jewels, and that funding came from another project, a European project, and that production will be enabled by Heaven. So there you see a clear example of synergies in between two European projects that are being financed and developing PEM technology in the region.
Thank you, Tatiana. We have more questions? Feel free.
Thank you. My name is Hans Rasmusson from ERIC, European Research Institute for Gas and Energy Innovation. Very glad to see you on stage. I have connections to Heaven, where we are a partner. We're working with Viva, and we worked with Rhône-Alpes in the Hydro-Market project. Bradley, we need to connect, obviously. Tajana, you mentioned some challenges you've been facing. They were external nature, geopolitical, pandemic. I think you have had elections also, adding to national energy policy insecurity. But from a technical point of view, what has been your experiences in the valleys with all these hydrogen technologies along the whole value chain? Has there been anything that has worked better than expected, and had there also been some applications that have not functioned so well? So a bit on your experiences with the implementation of the hydrogen technologies.
Yes, with Heaven, most of the deployment so far has been focused on mobility, and we have the taxis up and running for 3 years or more, and we have heard no complaints from them in terms of how reliable the taxis are and the fuel cell technology that they're using. With the trucks has been a little bit uphill because they are retrofitted trucks. And well, the company is also a local company that has done a lot of innovation by developing and investing themselves on developing these trucks. So there has been a lot of learning in terms of performance of the fuel cells and the trucks themselves. I think 4 out of 5 that have developed, they are running successfully, and only one has given some more problems. For the housing, we are too early to say at this stage. They have not, although we have pipelines already ready to connect the production of hydrogen and the end users, we're still in an early stage to see more of the operational phase. That we are 5 years, but we are still in the deployment phase. So we are starting to gather more and more data for operations, and that will be shared in the future with more accuracy, so to say.
Maybe I can just complement on the mobility application, because our valley is also strongly focused on this sector. In our case, we might share a little more nuanced version, because we felt like the hydrogen mobility sector has undergone some difficulty recently, and what we expected while writing our application back in 2022, and even when we started deploying Imagine, it was in February 2024. For example, if we're going to the manufacturer side, the offer for light-duty vehicle has just drastically reduced in 2025. So it means that the projects were based on vans were impossible to deploy. On the truck side, there is some progress, but there is also some delays. So since all of the individual projects in the valleys are actually connected, sometimes it can create difficulties. But the good aspect is that thanks to the flexibility this grant offers, we were able to invest in the more advanced sector, which are in our case buses and coaches. And we did have some private stakeholders reinvesting in more this aspect, and also the regional council investing in these coaches, which are retrofitted in actually the region.
Thank you, Jean. We need to finish. We're already 5 minutes late, but I would like to thank all of you for participating in today's session. Thank you.
Valleys for the excellent insight in what happens in the project. And I hope everybody in this room still realizes this is still innovation. Huh? So this is our role, the G role, a very important role of first of a kind, where we really look at the technology, we really learn from that. These are not commercial projects. We need to have these projects before commercial projects happen, because that's why probably commercial projects sometimes do not work, because they didn't go through the learning phase. And like somebody else was saying, failures is also learning. Huh? So now allow me to build on that somehow, and let's see what else projects need to move into the final investment decision. And I would like to introduce the third member of the team managing valleys, Pietro. Pietro is also a senior project officer in the team, and he comes from the transport angle, but lately involved more and more into the valleys. And he will have, I hope, the pleasure to chat a bit and have a kind of an expert talk, how we like to call it, with Christopher from Rollenberger, who's supporting us with the whole valley facility concept and everything that we can do for these valleys to move into the final investment decision. So the floor is yours, Pietro, Christopher. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mirella. I hope this is working. No, it's not working yet.
Yeah, no.
No, it's working. Okay, perfect. So we are painfully aware that we are a little bit late and eating into your coffee break, but we'll try to make it a worthwhile for you and make it very interesting. Christopher, thank you for joining us here today. So I think that from the presentation of Antonio this morning, we have seen that the joint undertaking has been doing quite a lot over the last decade when it comes to the hydrogen valley. We started with the hydrogen territories, then as the technology and the political attention has evolved, we are now working on the hydrogen valley as we conceive them today, as we perceive them all today in the present configuration. And the support, our signature support, we could say, is the grants. The numbers you mentioned earlier, Antonio, 21 valleys, 250 million more that have been provided. So this is the core of what we do, but it's not all we can do, and it's not all that we do. There is additional type of support that we are providing. There are gaps that we want to fill in. And I think that's also quite an interesting point to make when it comes to the joint undertaking. These are very agile tools that can provide this type of support to the industry. It's not something that every sector here in Brussels can claim to have this type of support, this agility and this expertise to find a need and address it immediately. Now, Antonio already mentioned this type of support. I'm talking about the PDA. This was a first experience we had in the past, and building on that, we wanted to do something else, something rather unique, the hydrogen facility. And Christopher here, Christopher Schmidt from the Rollenberger, you're a partner at Rollenberger. You have quite an extensive experience when it comes to very large infrastructure projects, hydrogen. That's definitely an expertise that comes in handy when it comes to the facility. And maybe let's take it step by step, because there are some people here that are not quite aware what this facility is. And let's start with the why. It might sound obvious until you get into the details. So why do we need this facility? What is the gap? What is the need that we are trying to answer to with this facility? And thank you again for being here with us.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me, and happy to provide some context. So the starting point for why you guys started thinking about putting together the facility in the first place, I think, was a very simple, but at the same time also very puzzling finding. We do not have a shortage of projects, and we do not have a shortage of project pipeline, quite to the contrary. We have tons of announcements out there. What we do have is a shortage of mature projects that move to FID and beyond. Yeah? And the basic objective of the facility is to actually do something about this and to address the different challenges that we see, be they technical, be they commercial, be they regulatory, be they from a governance standpoint, that need to be overcome step by step, baby steps, not a big bang, baby steps, to move the projects towards FID and make that happen and turn all of the great concepts that we see out there, where a lot of work has been put together by various different stakeholders on a local and regional level, into something that actually triggers impact on the ground by moving towards FID and beyond. And I think that was the starting point for putting together the facility in the first place. Huh?
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Christoph. That's very interesting. Now, let's start to go a little bit step by step, deeper into the facility and look how it is actually set up. Maybe you can start by indeed tell us what is the overall architecture of the facility, how you structured it to answer our call.
Yes. So in essence, the facility overall consists of three main building blocks, three main pillars, if you will. The first one is the Hydrogen Valley's platform, which is a web platform that some of you, or hopefully most of you, might know, that basically showcases hydrogen valleys from Europe, but also globally. Yeah? And makes them visible, provides a stage for them, and also provides an infrastructure through which those different valley developers can actually connect, exchange best practices, exchange on what does and does not work, and come together to develop joint solutions and also mobilize investment, because it has a very clear outward-facing communication element to it. That's the first pillar. The second pillar, which is a newly introduced pillar as part of the overall Hydrogen Valley's facility that we kicked off earlier this year, is the H2V Knowledge Center. So this is really about providing a structure, also web-based, in which specific knowledge, know-how, content items in terms of guidelines, tools, etc., can be made available that you need throughout the project development cycle, that can be made available to a broad audience out there, traditional valleys, more focused project developers, etc., that can tap into that. And this is complemented by interactive events and formats where it's not only about self-service. You can pull a tool, you can pull a guideline and work with it, but it's rather about exchanging in structured format with peer developers that face similar problems. And the last pillar of the Hydrogen Valley's facility is what is called project development assistance. So this is really about providing, from the perspective of the valleys, of the beneficiaries, free of charge consulting services to help them along these dimensions that I have mentioned. So commercial and financial, technical, governance, and regulatory and permitting, to really support these valleys when it comes to moving from where they are, many of them in the relatively early concept stages, towards hopefully feasibility and ultimately FID. We have substructured that into a PDA Lite offering and a PDA Plus offering. The PDA Lite offering targeting more early stage valleys, and the PDA Plus offering targeting more advanced, more mature valleys. And the way it works is we basically do a baselining phase at the outset with these valleys. We sit down, we assess where they stand, we assess what the gaps and the missing steps are towards FID, and then we ask ourselves with the consulting team that we have, both from a commercial side, but also from a technical side with our partner Worley, where we can actually move the needle and do something that really adds value and moves these valleys closer to FID. So it's not about doing something, but it's about doing something that creates an impact. And that's why also what specifically we do in these PDAs looks a little bit different depending on which valley we are talking about and which beneficiaries we are collaborating with.
Thank you. Well, that sounds very comprehensive, and there is a mix of theory, but also very practical help on the ground. So it's really about helping projects to advance. And when it comes to the PDA, you already told us that there is the PDA Plus and Lite, according to what is the maturity of your idea, that has to be become a project. And I understand that you already started, right, with the providing the support. Maybe you can give us a little bit more practical details on the PDA itself, because this is, let's say, the most interactive pillar of the three, where really people need to approach you, they need to put skin in the game if they want to receive some of support from your side. Maybe just to give a little bit an idea to somebody that might be interested in the PDA, what it takes, what it means.
Yes, to quickly walk you through the process. So this is an entirely open program, yeah? So anyone who meets the basic requirements can apply. This is not tied to any prior funding that you may have received, to any future funding that you may want to receive. So it's a standalone program where everyone who meets the basic valley criteria definition can actually apply. We ran the first call for applications over the summer, concluded it mid-late September this year, and we're quite happy with the turnout. We received 36 high-quality applications coming out of 18 countries total. Across Europe, and we ended up 15 hydrogen valleys for this first wave of project development assistance, 6 for PDA Plus, 9 for PDA Lite. I know that many of you in the room have been in the process. What we tried to do, I hope that somehow worked, was to keep the effort for the application relatively limited. Yeah, so it's not about forgive me, your typical very comprehensive Horizon Europe application template with hundreds of pages, but we try to design it in a way such that you can submit what you have in terms of project concept documents, because at the end of the day, we want to get a realistic grasp of where the project stands to be able to assess if and to what extent and how we can best help. Yeah, so that was the idea. That's also why the application period was relatively short. Yeah, we ended up selecting those 15 valleys, as I mentioned, and then we started beginning of November. So we're in the middle of ramping this up. The PDA Plus will run for 12 weeks. The PDA Lites will run for approximately 6 weeks each, and we're in the middle of doing this. And now it's about getting our hands dirty and working with the valleys.
And this is also a two-way cooperation, right? Like whoever comes to you, knocks at your doors, and is selected, and also have to put some resources available, because otherwise it would be just water in the desert if then there is not a proper follow-up.
Precisely, it's a co-creation approach. We need to have counterparts on the valley side that we can do meaningful work with. And the idea is not to go into a process where we define a deliverable at the beginning and then they don't hear from us for 12 weeks and then they get a 200-page report and they like it or not. It's not that type of exercise. We need someone to work with. We know that resources are tight. We also know that resources on the developers' sides are tighter maybe than they were 2 or 3 years ago, when we were at the peak of the hype, so to speak. So we are aware of that. We're not trying to create any undue effort that is not necessary, but we do need someone to work with to make it
You're helping,
meaningful.
you're not doing it for them, right? And when it will be more or less the next chance for anybody that would be interested in apply for a PDA?
So in principle, we want to keep the momentum, and we saw out of the 36 applications that we got, there were a lot of high-quality applications that didn't quite meet the mark, that didn't quite meet the cutoff point, but that we would have loved to work with, because those were good applications, right? So obviously, we want to keep up the momentum. So the idea is to start the call for the second wave early next year, in order to be able to deliver the second wave in the course of 2026.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Christoph. I think that's clear enough. Then probably we'll stick around as well here if anybody has some specific question, or anybody can still reach to us. Mirella, do we still have a couple of minutes, or you're...
If you want to take a question or two from the audience?
Yes, well, okay, so if you have questions, no, I had questions, but okay, if anybody has questions, I think about it in the meanwhile. I will still ask you one thing, Christoph, because you're in a quite unique position. You're a very nice vintage point. You're working the dark side of the development of these projects, where they are the most fragile, right? Where really a lot of the difficulties have to be fixed. I mean, you know, in a couple of words, you could see what are your takeaways, maybe some key recommendations. Say, guys, if you don't have X, Y, Z, don't even think about getting started with a valley. The most critical things that you think are part of the successful recipe.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to generalize because at the end of the day, each valley is different, each case is different. Also, the local conditions and the requirements are different. But I think, in a nutshell, if we look at the portfolio of hydrogen valleys, I think there's 3 key findings that emerge. The first one, and you might find that dull or boring, but I don't get tired of repeating this, is the importance of the commercial viability of the business case. And what I'm referring to is we still see quite a lot of projects out there that structurally rely on funding for the viability of their business case. And I'm not talking about DevEx funding and the early stages and the pre-feasibility study and feasibility studies. Is perfectly normal. Yeah, it's a risky endeavor in an early stage market. It's typically equity funded. There's only so much willingness to invest in that out of the private sector. So there is a role for public funding, no doubt about it. But what I'm trying to get at is the structural business case in the operations phase, yeah? And the question whether you have a commercially viable case that is based on a sufficient willingness to pay in the market, where willingness to pay, if we're honest, is in most cases driven by regulation. Yeah? So there has to be a firm regulation in place that triggers a willingness to pay, that is able to sustain the commercial fundamentals of a project. And I think starting with that and building your valley around that logic, it might sound trivial, but I think I don't get tired of emphasizing this because I think it's important. The second point that I think sticks out is I always call this brownfield is king. Yeah? So what I mean by that is there's a lot of moving parts in building a valley. And if you have some parts, at least in the beginning, that are not moving, yeah? Where you have an anchor off-taker, where you have an existing infrastructure with which you can leverage synergies, etc., that makes your life a lot easier. And of course, you can build an entire ecosystem from scratch, but it's a massive endeavor, and it's a lot more difficult. Yeah? So if you start with an existing gray hydrogen user, and it's only, quote unquote, about converting that user from gray to green. That's already in and of itself a major endeavor, but at least you have a starting point. Yeah? And the same holds for adjacent or even shared infrastructure that a project might benefit from. So I think it's very important to look at these brownfield components that you can actually leverage and build your project around. Yeah? And the third point, I'll keep it very brief. The reason why we're talking about valleys is because they have a local and regional logic to them, and I think that's exactly the right approach. We do not have a liquid, large-scale, nationwide or even European market. We're all fierce proponents of the hydrogen backbone. We hope this will materialize. This will help a lot with spreading things cross-regionally, but for the time being, if you want to do something meaningful, look locally, look regionally, build the network there, try to find the off-takers there, rather than waiting or counting on an abstract market out there to materialize. Yeah?
Perfect, very clear. And that's the type of support you can expect if you apply for a PDA. Now I see a question down there, and it will be the only question, I'm afraid. No? Okay.
Hello, everyone. Alexander Fristam from High24. We're a private equity manager. We have more than 5 gigawatt of electrolysis capacity in development in Europe. Christopher, you mentioned your point number 1, the commercial viability. Bradley before mentioned the importance of the Renewable Energy Directive implementation. I cannot stress enough in all of our projects how important the transposition of the Renewable Energy Directive, of the development of the regulation in Europe to the business cases. Coming to the hydrogen valleys, is there anything we can do to help hydrogen valleys mobilize themselves, unite themselves, pass this message? It's important for the current hydrogen valleys to get to the next level that the regulation is in place, that the regulation is ambitious enough. It's important for the next generation of hydrogen valleys for the regulations to be there in order to reach final investment decision, as Christopher said. So is there anything that they can be helped with, that they can be supported to start that dialogue with their respective governments, with their respective institutions, to just pass the message of the importance of regulation in putting technologies, bringing them to the market? Thanks.
Yes, so first of all, I couldn't agree more. The transposition of the Renewable Energy Directive and the transposition in a way that actually sustains business cases. Yeah, that's the crucial part. Not doing something and having some lofty paperwork just so that you don't get in trouble with the commission. That's one thing. Yeah, but ultimately we want something that is sufficiently clear, sufficiently firm, sufficiently stable, so that somebody looks at this and says, okay, this could turn into a bankable business case because there are cash flows coming out of this. And if I do my homework in the project, this becomes a business case. Yeah, this is very important, and I think the valleys have a key role to play in bringing this message across to policymakers, because they are the ones who do the development work on the ground. And many of the valleys will tell you, well, I could do another study. It would be great if somebody paid for a feed study, of course, and I would gladly take it. But at the end of the day, I can now micro-optimize the load factor of my electrolyzer. If I don't solve the fundamental issue of offtake, all of this is meaningless. And this is the type of very simple yet very powerful message that needs to be passed along. And I think there's nobody better placed than the valleys to do this, because they have the credibility from their day-to-day work on the ground to actually say this, and also illustrate this with the anecdotes, with the stories that they experience on the ground. So I think they need to join the effort to actually bring this message across. Yeah?
Perfect. Thank you very much, Christopher. I'm afraid that this was all the time we have left. So hopefully this has triggered your interest, and we will see many more applications at the next round of the PDA. Christopher, thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you both, Christopher and Pietro, for this really insightful discussion into what we do more. And I think this is what I wanted to say before we go for a coffee. This is the value of this partnership, working with everybody, involving all the actors, from policymakers, commission, to the industry, to the research institutes, to the regional authorities. This is the value. This is where you see innovation, not only on the technology, and we'll go to that after the coffee, back to the innovations on the technology, but innovation in the business models. Like I also said yesterday, we cannot just develop technologies and then let them orphan because the business case doesn't work. No, we also have to do innovation there, and this is again the value of the partnership. I'll let you reflect more on that over the coffee. Let's come back 10 past 12. Sorry, Luca, you will have a challenge for the next session. So 10 past 12. Thank you. But they are starting to come. Okay. Okay, we have a bell today. Okay, if we can move a bit quicker, get in, take the seats. No? Let's also close the doors. Okay, good. So allow me to start while people are hopefully taking their place silently. And move to the second session of this morning, and I have the pleasure now to switch back to technology development and continue with what we were doing yesterday, continue along the value chain, and look now on the uses of the technologies on the clean heat and power production. And I would like to give now the floor to one of my team members, Luca Feola. He's now the leader of the clean heat and power area in the team. And he will guide you first through a portfolio analysis like you also saw yesterday, and then hopefully have the pleasure to also introduce some of the projects, some of the outstanding projects in 2024, 2025, and then also, let's say 1:15 as a deadline, have a panel discussion, hopefully. So Luca, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mirella. Good morning everyone. Welcome back from the coffee. Indeed, I will bring you through the clean heat and power portfolio that today divides in two main applications. There's a stationary fuel cells and the turbine boilers and burners with hydrogen combustions. Now, I have the task, which is very difficult, to summarize a portfolio that started 15 years ago, where only few of us were here. I think only Mirella was here when this portfolio started, but just to say that this is one of the portfolios that has been a long-standing portfolio in our JU. And it started with small applications and low TRL projects, such as on materials, degradation, and diagnostics, even though diagnostic work keeps going until today. Progressively moved toward proof of concept and trials and demonstrations. And in the slide, I refer to some notable projects, such as, for example, PACE on micro CHP, Grasshopper, Cosmos, Rore Power, that are one of the latest projects that has brought success to this portfolio. But then, in today's SRIA, we also added the gas turbine and boilers and burners, which will be presented today. But nonetheless, the focus on fuel cells remains, because the focus on this area is on manufacturing with the purpose of reducing the TCO, flexibility of fuels that will be displayed in the presentation, reducing critical raw material, and the capability to go from 0 to 100% hydrogen and hydrogen mixtures. Two notes about the contribution that we provided throughout these years. We have funded 92 projects for a total of 320 million funded by the JU. Historically, micro CHP was one of the top contributors to this area. Today, the activities on micro CHP has been slightly reduced. And if we look at today's portfolio, it is equally split between hydrogen combustions with 8 projects and stationary fuel cells with 8 projects, for a total contribution of approximately 69 million from the JU. We move on to details of the projects. Start with the fuel cells and SFOC. So 4 key areas related to SFOC research. The first one is on developing flexible systems that accept different fuels. And in this case, we have SO3, specifically on accepting hydrogen, biogases, and natural gases and mixtures. and Ammon. Ammon is, as the name itself says it, is a project developing fuel cells working on ammonia, from 100% ammonia to power. Second area of research is the reversibility and gas integration. And in this case, there's a continuation of activities from the previous joint undertaking in our previous programs, because we started with CH2P and to switch, which was one of the most successful projects in the last years, and today 24/7 Zen. On a demo project, we do have E2P2. I think this was our first project that developed fuel cells to suit a data center. The project started, I think, 2018, and it comes very handy today because of the increased request of fuels and energy for data centers. The project will also present today, and we look forward to the achievement. The most important one, I can already mention it, is the high availability that the project achieved through a system that, even in case of a module failure, still maintains a 99.999% availability. To conclude on SFOCs, we have Project AMPS. The key focus is manufacturing. So it has developed a high-speed manufacturing technique through laser welding and stack components handling. The idea of this project is to provide manufacturer tools to lower costs, and in fact the target is 800 euros per kilowatt for a volume of 100 megawatt per year. Continuing on the fuel cells, this time PEM fuel cells, two projects, Cleaner, that we present today. Key aspect of Cleaner is the capability to work with low hydrogen purity, around 98%, so industrial purity. And another application is given by the Project Rescue. This is a rather niche application because it's supposed to be a mobile transportable system for emergency situations, so where energy is not available. Key aspects are the use of high temperature fuel cells, that I think is the unique now in our portfolio, and the capability to work also with methanol and hydrogen combined. On the diagnostic side, we have Ruby. Ruby also has represents a continuation of activity with our previous project Insight, which will then continue in React, a next successor project. Switching area now from PEM fuel cells to hydrogen combustion. We started the project on hydrogen combustion in 2022. The idea was to first develop hydrogen combustors only, so burners for gas turbines, and then move into entire gas turbine burning 100% of hydrogen. The good news is that from the project developing combustors, which are Helios and Flex4H2, we did achieve already 100% hydrogen combustion. This is a great news. Perhaps it proved that it was a good idea to introduce hydrogen combustion in our portfolio. The challenge, though, is not over, because the next challenge is achieving stable combustion, so with no flashback and no instabilities at 100% and at higher pressure. And I will also give a word to some project in a minute. The next step and the follow-up of the combustors project are, in fact, High Power GT and HycoFlex. These are projects where the combustor will be assembled in an entire gas turbine, which is an entire different story because of the instability that this brings. These projects are ongoing, so no results to be shared yet, but we do look forward for the achievement in 2026. Other combustion applications, one that we'll present today is H2AL. H2AL is a practical use case of oxy-fuel combustion in an aluminum furnace. So a burner will be assembled on a furnace, and the project will also develop sensors and refractory materials to prevent damages to the furnace because of the higher temperature that this combustor brings. On the low TRL side, we do have the need to further study effects of flame at high pressure, an effect of instability due to the hydrogen combustion. And we have, in particular, Insight and Accept, which will do that through numerical simulations. But also we will look into ammonia with the project Achieve. It's a low TRL project, but is the project that will study the combustion of ammonia at TRL 5 for burners. Worth mentioning that this area in particular, so the H2 combustion phenomenon at low TRL, has been identified in a workshop that we held in Japan in 2025 with NEDO. NEDO is a new energy department based in Kobe. We did have a workshop with them to research jointly and identify area of cooperation, and in particular this one is the main output. And we want to encourage the cooperation also in the next work program. We have to say we notice also smooth cooperation within our project between the OEMs on the area of the H2 combustion phenomenon, and we do look forward for the findings also in Europe. To conclude, I want to show these slides because I couldn't go into details of the project, but what I want to show with this slide is that all these projects, whether they are fuel cells or gas turbine, they show two types of flexibility that comes very handy for the use cases. One is in terms of power, because they go from 10 kilowatt size of SO3 and Namon to the 10 megawatt size of the gas turbines, with some specific application also in the middle, such as rescue and H2Al. But they also show flexibility in terms of fuels because they can operate with ammonia, methanol, natural gas, and also with their mixtures, which I think is the great selling point for these type of applications for the end users. I conclude with some key takeaways from the fuel cell side and from the gas turbine side. From the fuel cell side, we notice that we take stock of the fact that the work focused, and perhaps we'll keep focusing on reversibility and fuel flexibility. With innovative manufacturing technique, we point to reduce the TCO, and this is our key contribution for that for the moment. And we believe that achieving megawatt size scales for the fuel cells is also a challenge, but it's an achievable one. On the combustion side, we proved that the technology can be successful at high TRL. Work will continue on the simulations. But jointly, this project and this portfolio has shown the capability to cover different fuels and different power requirements. I stop here, and I start then giving the word to one of our first projects. Thanks a lot for the attention. So the first presenter will be the project Cleaner, and in this case, I ask you, Anders, to come on the stage. Cleaner is a project on fuel cells, PEM fuel cells, focusing on low purity hydrogen. Thanks. I give the word to you.
Good. Thanks. I'm happy to present the project here. First wanted to say, so we're now a more political correct cleaner. When we applied, we had the name Dirty Harry. It was quite fun, but there was some objections to that. Very good. So we are looking into industrial quality grade hydrogen for fuel cells. So here you see sort of the objective of the project. We are developing a 100 kilowatt PEM fuel cell system, and we're going to operate that for 5,000 hours in an industrial setting with impurities. You see the partners below here, so research partners in addition to SINTEF, PowerCell, of course, then supplying the fuel cell, University of Freiburg, FPK, VTT, Petexo doing dissemination communication, and then we have a group of stakeholders and end users of this. So the main objective, the motivation is of course that we want to utilize hopefully cheaper, lower purity hydrogen, which for instance could come from pipeline or large storages of hydrogen, where you would have the quality not typically available for today's PEM fuel cells. So very briefly, activities we have in the project. So we're looking into development of both catalyst membranes. We do cell and stack testing, modeling, economic analysis, environmental analysis, improvements of the system as such, and then of course I mentioned the 5,000 hours of testing at VTT will be performed. First off, the fuel cell system, as said, it's based on power cells technology, so they have now further developed a modified 100 kilowatt system, all prepared, ready to be shipped to VTT for testing at their site. So there's been some modifications on mainly system scale. So for instance, here you see it's mentioned air bleed introduced on the hydrogen side, and also the anode recirculation loop has been improved to increase efficiency of the overall system. So there will be a total of 5,000 hours operation. We will perform 2 campaigns. So one initially to both as a initial test to have a baseline and investigate first performance and impurities, and then we will have an additional one, so they together sum up to 5,000 hours with then the even improved system as such. The full size, the 100 kilowatt testing will be performed at VTT, so they have already prepared a test site. It's a further development of a containerized test system they have, which has and is still being used for other projects. It can also provide the impurities. We will introduce, so of course you could use real industrial supplied hydrogen, but you would then not have the control of quality or impurities as we would like. We want to know what we're sending into to the fuel cell. We also will analyze the exhaust of this with a micro GC to which you will see in the next slide also what we want to analyze on this. When it comes to the catalyst and the material development, so this part of this more fundamental work is to develop materials that will tolerate impurities and at the same time reduce costs. So first developments have been done at University of Freiburg, and one of the activities here, which was also mentioned as a collaboration with H2 Marine, another project where University of Freiburg and VTT are involved. That's the development of carbon-13 material with the aim of being able to more detailed analyze the carbon corrosion coming specifically from the catalyst carriers, and then you can sort of separate that from any other corrosion or carbon products coming out of the total system. I'm not going to go into details of all of these scientific details here, but this is then also available in reports and publications which the partners have prepared. Initially also we did a study on hydrogen impurities, which would be typically available or in the hydrogen sources which we were thinking of. So for instance then pipeline hydrogen, or also large-scale storages like salt caverns. So through these studies and also dialogue with external stakeholders, we had a couple of workshops to get input to our initial part of the work, and then also throughout the development of a final report. and that report is also available. So what we have then here, you see what we concluded: frequently occurring impurities, nitrogen, hydrocarbons, methane, carbon dioxide, of course. And from our side, what we want to focus on in the project would be CO, due to the high risk and also high impact of the PEM fuel cell. And this will then also be tested in the 100 kilowatt system at VTT. In addition to the large-scale testing, we also have cell and stack testing at SINTEF and VTT. Some of the first experiments have already been done, also to verify this carbon-13 concept, which is where we also have then used the GC equipment for. What's been done at SINTEF side, we did some initial studies on propane as one potential impurity. Perhaps also, as expected, did not have too much impact, even at higher levels, mainly then dilution perhaps on that. But these are first initial tests, and then we will continue. I guess I forgot to say that the project is soon halfway. We're also doing modeling in the project, and FPK are the ones responsible for that. I think they're also here in the room. AI modeling, looking into understanding and the impact more of CO2 poisoning. So there has already been some first modeling, and which have been building on data from other earlier projects to train the model. So as we don't have data yet from our large-scale testing, we have started off with data from, I'm not quite sure which project it is or if it's confidential, but at least there's some already been development there on the modeling side. So already trying to summarize a bit on this project. As said, we have done a study, and I think now that's being more than complemented by a recent study by the Commission, also on impurities. I think it came a week, 2 ago, so 150, 200 pages report. So that is probably more detailed than ours. Anyhow, we concluded on the impurities and the main components we want to test in our project. When it comes to the mitigation, so far we're looking into both new materials on the catalyst specifically, and then also system design and strategies. As said, within the project we will do more fuel cell testing, combining it with modeling to look at impacts and understand the mechanisms of various impurities. Good. Concluding on that, we will then, in the end, totally have operated the system for 5,000 hours to validate our results. Good. That was it.
Thanks a lot, Anders. Great to see these results. Then we move forward with the next presentation. In this case, the presenter is Alessandro Parente from University of Brussels. He didn't have to travel a lot to come here, but thanks for coming. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and even more, I live very close, like 5 minutes, so I didn't have to walk much. So I would talk about the progress in H2Al. We are a little bit more than midways into the project, and I will try to give you a little bit of a flavor of what we do. Also, of course, many of the most detailed results can be found on our website, all the deliverables and the technical information. In H2Al, we really target these sectors that are hard to abate. In this case, our use case is aluminium. And these are sectors where the need for high energy density, for local sources, and also on-demand sources is extremely important. And so we really focus on this decarbonization of heat, which of course is the challenging part of the decarbonization as far as we are concerned. And in this context, I would like just to point out one point, is the fact that of course we know that we can produce, or can we actually use the excess of energy and store that in the source in the form of renewable synthetic fuels. Hydrogen is one of them. It's not the only one. But I would like to point out that there is a challenge here that once you have these fuels, you actually have to convert them in technologies that can treat them in a way that is flexible, respecting the environment, and ensuring that the solutions are cost-effective and secure. And this is where I think the interesting part of this project comes in, because when you actually retrofit an industrial furnace to use hydrogen, but I would say also ammonia could be another good example, then you have a number of challenges that arise. And I try to actually summarize them here in this slide. The first one is that the combustion properties that you will be exposed to are completely different with respect to those that you were used to. And so all these processes were run with natural gas, and now suddenly you actually use hydrogen. There is an impact on the combustion processes. There is an impact on pollutant emissions, and these are the obvious ones. But actually there are impacts on the material themselves that make these boilers and furnaces. There is an impact on the product quality. There is a concern that, in fact, the very rich water atmosphere could have an impact on the quality of the product that you actually get from these processes. And of course, there are other challenges which are related to the lack of training and also the lack of confidence in scalability of these technologies, but this was already mentioned in the morning. Okay, so based on that, we proposed our project, which is here. It's a very long name, so you just have to remember H2O, much nicer. And ULB, we coordinated. The final user is 2A. It's a foundry in Italy. It's the biggest foundry for die casting of aluminum. We have Nippon Gases as a partner manufacturer offer for the entire characterization of the ceramic material of the insulation of the furnaces. GHI and Technalia that are helping us with retrofitting the systems. And then we have EKW that works closely with Fraunhofer. Blue Energy Revolution looks at scalability, and we have GWI that works together with us in the characterization of the combustion processes. And finally, we have European Aluminium that makes this role, of making this technology or these results available to all the other aluminum companies that they represent. Okay, so our objectives are, the main objectives are the ones here. So we have two objectives. The first one is that we have to be able to prove at the end of the project that there is a set of technologies, so burners and refractory materials and sensors that will be retrofitted in these 2A facilities in Turin. For aluminum ingot and internal scrap recycling process with 100% hydrogen. There is a specific requirement of the code for a certain time, so we will have to actually ensure that this is met. And also we need to make sure that whatever we develop will be useful to beyond the project itself. And so we would like to make sure with data, knowledge, guidelines, documentation that what we will develop can be replicated in other hard-to-abate sectors that we are actually already cooperating with. So we have interactions with other projects like H2 Glass, INIT, that are other projects where these problems are encountered. Okay, so why did we choose aluminum? So for the size and time frame of the call, we thought that this was actually an excellent use case. The reason is that aluminum industry, in fact, has already committed to a substantial reduction of greenhouse gases emissions, and so that's an important point. Also, the recycling of aluminum is key to circular economy. and only required 5% of the energy required for the primary aluminium. Green hydrogen is an optimal route for aluminium recycling, especially when it deals or when it comes to contaminated scraps. And finally, many of the challenges that we encounter and we will encounter in our project will be key or will be instrumental for other hard-to-abate industries. So we actually think that this is another interesting aspect. Okay, so I would like just to go through the main results and steps that we have taken so far, and then maybe we can discuss further in the panel. So the first thing that we had to do, this was the baseline of our approach, was really to look at these combustion experiments and simulations. This was done by ULB with Nippon Gases and GWI, and the idea was really to characterize what was different between burning hydrogen and hydrogen and natural gas in furnaces, and we were also able to determine a baseline modeling approach that could be used to characterize these combustion processes. That this was done in the installations of GWI in Germany. Then there was a very big piece of work on the refractory materials, and as I was mentioning before, there is concerns about these hydrogen-rich and water-rich atmospheres on the quality of the product, not only and also on the refractory material themselves. And there were many of works that were combining simulations and experiments to design new refractory material that could be used with confidence to retrofit industrial furnaces that will rely on hydrogen in the future. We also started looking at impact and replication. This was done by European Aluminium with GWI and BER, Blue Energy Revolution. And in particular, we are using GIS to identify locations and demand of aluminium production sites in Europe, so to have actually this match between the location and the availability of hydrogen and try to replicate and scale up this approach to other use cases. Now, let's go a little bit more into the pilot testing. So the pilot testing is currently ongoing in Technalia with support of Nippon. You see here a burner that has been developed specifically for this project. So it's a 1 megawatt burner with the refractory blocks. So you have here the skid that will be used in the pilot, and you have here a very schematic representation of the burner that Nippon has developed for this application. So this is now all being implemented in Technalia to test the approach in realistic configurations before we do the final retrofit in Turin. Now the furnace retrofit has already been explored and is also currently undergoing. And basically, this is the furnace of 2A. And what you see here is that the locations where we will replace all the burners with the burners that have been produced by Nippon for the project. There will be also changes in, as I told you, in the internal refractory materials that will completely be replaced with the ones identified by Fraunhofer and EKW. This will then substantially affect the furnace that will be affected both in the refractory, burner replacement, and carpentry. And finally, the final demonstration, as I told you, will take place in Nippon. We are designing everything so that we don't have major hiccups. We know that there will be logistical challenges related to the supply of hydrogen, but we rely on Nippon and we are safe and sound with them. One point that I would like to address here is that sometimes underlooked, the legislation around hydrogen is not very mature. And what we are seeing here with this project is that there is also an opportunity to advance on that. We have all the analysis that Nippon has done for the safety of the site with identification of the ATEX zones, and so to proceed with verified and safe experiments. Finally, before I close, it was mentioned in the project before, we also have one part of the project that really looks into developing digital twins. We think the digital twins are important not only for the final operation of the system, but also to train people using these new fuels. And this will actually address several of the challenges that I mentioned in the initial slide. So with that, I would like to thank you very much, and that's it.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Alessandro. And also, thank you for the reminder about the difficulties of the hydrogen combustion, because it's not obvious that that it's not an easy challenge because of the temperatures and the consequences that it brings. We move into, again, fuel cells with Parvati from RISE, presenting the project A2P2 on application for data centers. Please, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today I will speak to you about E2P2, that stands for EcoEdge Prime Power. It is a project that was aimed at developing a sustainable alternative power source for urban digital infrastructure. To give a little bit of background as to why we applied for this project, we are at a critical juncture in Europe's energy and digital transition. As you understand, the push for digitalization requires that the digital infrastructure moves closer to the consumers, which also means that it goes deeper into the urban areas, as well as at the edge of the networks. But this urban penetration has one major problem, a very fundamental problem, and that is of power, as we all know now. The conventional system that we have right now with the centralized power production and the very constrained power distribution grids, this is getting very challenging as the digital load or the digital infrastructures expand. Moreover, when we take data centers, which are a critical load, which requires to meet 99.999% availability, which is quite big to ask, then it requires backup power systems as well. And when connected to the grid, currently the norm is that we have diesel generators on site to catch up on times when there is a lack of power supply, especially from the grid. And as we know, if we put this together, the bigger picture is highly environmentally unsustainable. And with the way we are moving towards Europe's climate targets, it's time that we think about alternative ways to meet this. It is at this point that we drafted the E2P2 proposal, suggesting an on-site power production that can, of course, reduce the strain on power distribution grids, and in the bigger picture, be more environmentally sustainable. So with that, E2P2's vision is to develop and demonstrate low environmental impact fuel cells that provide economic and resilient prime power solutions for data centers. And the consortium behind it is quite strategic consortium with a lot of actors from the entire value chain. We have RISE, the Research Institutes of Sweden, who is also the project coordinator, but also collecting data from the operational phase so as to do further research and analysis. There is Equinix, that is the commercial data center operator, who provides the facilities for the demonstrator. There's Solidera, the heart of E2P2, providing the fuel cell technology. We have Tech for Fuels, another European company that provides systems that can support, especially with the inputs that needs to be filtered out before going into the fuel cell systems. We have Snam, the energy utility operator in Italy. And lastly, InfraPrime, an eco-entrepreneur. Snam and InfraPrime are performing the social impact assessment as well as the cost assessments of the project. Objectives, and this is again to give some perspective before we go into the outputs of the project. The main objective was to define the fuel cell prime power concept for a data center. And this means it is to define fuel cell by summarizing all of the requirements that needs to be met when meeting a critical load, and then develop a fuel cell solution that can match up to these expectations. So this is to basically develop the architecture and the technical solution. This will feed on to the second objective, that was to create an authoritative open standard for fuel cell adaptation for powering data centers. Once all of that is done, we have to demonstrate and validate a proof of concept of this solution while it acts as a prime power solution for data centers. From the demonstration, the next objective was to collect extensive operational data from the fuel cell operation so as to do further research and analysis. The analysis will also focus on social, environmental, and commercial impact that it can have on the European data center market. And lastly, we had to evaluate opportunities for improved efficiencies when combining waste, heat, energy recovery as well. We'll not be going into the technical solution in detail, but as we know, we have a data center load. It's not really a big one for this demonstrator use case. It's only 90 kilowatts, and that is the Equinix data center that we have chosen. We have the fuel cell systems supplied by Solidera. These will be solid oxide fuel cell systems. The 90 kilowatt load will be met by two 45 kilowatt SOFC modularized systems. We have Teffer Fuel supplying us with the gas and water treatment systems that are necessary for this. It is to note that for E2P2, we will not be using hydrogen as an input at the moment. It will be natural gas. Hence, the system is connected to the natural gas grid of Italy as well as the tap water grid of Italy. Maybe in the course of the project, in due case with demonstration, it might be a natural gas blend with hydrogen that will be demonstrated. We also have Vertiv providing us with the power equipment that is necessary for this project. So the journey so far. The project proposal was sent out sometime in 2020, so it's a long time now, and the project started in 2021. The decision to place the proof of concept in Milan was made in 2022, and this location was chosen so that we can demonstrate it in an urban environment and also in a live data center environment to get the best results out. From the period of 2022 to 2024 was crucial as we developed all the systems that were necessary, including the fuel cell modules, all the auxiliary systems that are required, the gas and water treatment system that is particularly required. And these were developed and delivered to site by 2024. And after which came the challenges with administrative and bureaucratic problems. But the project has started commissioning now in 2025, and we aim, hopefully, to start demonstration before the end of this year, which is very soon. The major outcomes. So, as I mentioned, the demonstration is yet to begin, so the outcomes are all focused on what we have achieved so far. But the first one and the most important, crucial outcome of this project is definitely the development of an open industry standard for SOFC-based systems to act as a primary power supply source for a critical load like data centers, where we require availability up to 99.999%. So a lack of common standard is usually one of the barriers that hinders faster adoption of technologies that even work out. So within the scope of E2P2 project, we have developed a design guideline for SOFC-based systems that can be used for other adoption cases, both by users as well as suppliers to develop the system that is required. Further on, we have also developed modularized SOFC modules that can be used to meet the power demand. I will come to this later in the next slide as to why this is key. And also to support the solid oxide fuel cell systems, and also we have UPS and battery systems on site. A particular or maybe a unique customized control system had to be developed during the course of E2P2 to ensure that seamless transitions occur even when there are some power fluctuations. This is definitely one of a kind for now. And we have also developed the gas and fluid cleaning systems that can support the SOFC systems to run efficiently. Now, the innovation action in this project was the development of modularized SOFC systems. As I mentioned, the load is not very high, it's only 90 kilowatts. To meet that, we are using two 45 kilowatt SOFC modules, which are further modularized. We have 60 stacks in each with 1.5 kilowatt power per stack. And the importance of this is that during the course of operation, even if one stack fails, or even if we need to perform maintenance on one, or if there is a degradation of one stack, we can isolate that one particular stack, and the rest can still meet the full 45 kilowatts output power that was required. And this is key because what we are aiming for is a resilient and reliable primary power system. So this is the key innovation action from E2P2. Moving on, lastly, the impacts is basically just a consolidation of all the outputs and the innovation action we have. They're not in order of importance, but if I start, I would say that the creation of an open standard that can help faster adoption of this technology is the key impact from this project, followed by a scalable fuel cell system that can encourage this technology to be used for different types of loads of any scale. Low maintenance, because if you compare this with a system with moving parts, definitely low maintenance, and low scope and carbon emissions, especially for data center scenario where, as I mentioned, right now, if they are connected to the grid along with the diesel generators, the scope 1 carbon emissions and scope 2 combined are really high for data centers. So with this SOFC-based solutions, it's definitely less carbon emissions. Moreover, this is one step forward in increasing the hydrogen preparedness. So as I mentioned, we start with demonstrating with natural gas, but since this is an SOFC system, it can definitely take hydrogen as well. And if possible, this will also be demonstrated for a natural gas blend with hydrogen. So this is definitely one step forward in the sense that we are improving our hydrogen preparedness, especially for industries like data center industry, where it is really key. And lastly, this is a resilient and robust system that is being demonstrated now, especially with the modularized SOFC system. With that, thank you, and maybe I can take questions from you all during the break.
Thanks a lot, Parvati, for all the insights on E2P2. We will discuss more during the Q&A. We go into the final presentation, this time from a HycoFlex project. The presenter is Ertan. And I heard there is a nice video that you will be willing to show about the use case, but more to you. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you very much, Luca, for the introduction. Yes, we have a video. Hopefully it will work. Well, again, my name is Ertan Yilmaz. I'm from Siemens Energy. I'm portfolio manager for hydrogen and green fuels. And in the next 10 minutes also, I will be talking about our pilot project, HycoFlex. So, let's see how this works. Wonderful. Yeah. HycoFlex is a brownfield pilot to decarbonize an existing combined heat and power plant in Saillat-Suvia in France. And the project's goal is to retrofit the plant for 100% hydrogen production, storage, and supply to an existing SGT-400 for re-electrification. And to achieve this, we have built a strong partnership between industry, academia, and our customers. The consortium is led by Siemens Energy. Our partners are Equinor, Centrax, ENGIE, and the German Aerospace Center, Smurfit Westrock, Arctic, and the National Technical University of Athens. It is funded by the Clean Hydrogen Partnership, which we are very thankful for. It's also, this project has started in February 2024, and it will last until April 2027. Important to note here is that the HycoFlex project is a successor project of another important project that was also funded by the EU, which is the HyFlex Power project. So we built really on the infrastructure that was already invested by the EU, and we expanded further to really reach TRL7 milestone. And it is therefore at the same site, and it utilizes and advances the infrastructure. And you may have also heard in the media in the past The high-flex power project was the world's first industrial-scale power-to-hydrogen-to-power demonstrator, which we have achieved in 2023. Well, in the existing setup, as you can see here, the combined heat and power plant is operated utilizing natural gas and generating electricity to the grid, and generates steam for end customers with Restrock, which is operating a paper mill to produce recycling paper, packaging paper. Well, with the under the high-flex power project, we modernized this plant and advanced the power-to-hydrogen power concept that includes the capability to generate hydrogen with the Siemens Energy prototype electrolyzer, then store it in tanks, and then resupply it via a mixing station back to the Siemens Energy SGT400 gas turbine and operate it with any blends of natural gas and hydrogen, anywhere between 0 to 100% hydrogen. So now we're going to the next slide. Hopefully this is a picture what you see here, how it looks like with the components that were added. And the main milestones for HycoFlex project is, first of all, the completion of the additional plant to upgrade the facility for flexible cogeneration operation for various loads and various hydrogen contents, which we have achieved last year. And this year, we have already concluded one of our 2 testing campaigns that we wanted to establish during the project. And we have done so successfully in October of this year. And next year, our target is to demonstrate the flexible operation of the cogeneration plant with the gas turbine and with the steam generation with natural gas hydrogen mixtures anywhere from 0 to 100% hydrogen. Yeah. So in this slide, it shows you the pictures of the main components in detail, and also along with the technical capabilities. But as Lucas mentioned, a nice video is worth 1,000 words. So hopefully we go to the video that we have taken during the high-flex power project, but it shows really how we have done it. So this is time-lapse. This is the location where we are. Retrofit of the advanced plant concept, power to hydrogen to power. Electrolyzer. Exchange the hydrogen gas turbine for testing. All right, I think we can, for the sake of time, we can move on. Also a few words on gas turbine combustion technology, because it's important. It's for the entire project. Today's state-of-the-art gas turbine burn natural gas using dry low emissions combustion technology. And to burn 0 to 100% hydrogen within the same gas turbine, one needs to consider a few important physical characteristics which are different from hydrogen and natural gas. Yeah? I mean, some are listed here along with its challenges. But I'm not going to go through all of them, but the most important characteristics, which is really a challenge for us designers, for our designers, is the higher reactivity of hydrogen. So the high reactivity of hydrogen what it translates is really the higher flame speeds in the gas turbine conditions, which can be up to 10 times of natural gas. So, and what this does is, you can see on the chart here also the speed of the flame speed is not linear, so it becomes more and more exponential once we reach a threshold point beyond roughly 80% of volume of hydrogen. So, and that's where the fun begins, and that is where really the flame in premixed combustion technology tends to attach itself further closer to the exit of the mixing region, which you can see here in these pictures. As you increase the combustion hydrogen content, it gets closer. And at some point, if you don't design it well, what it can happen is a phenomenon that is called flashback. So it can flash back into the mixing zone where it's not supposed to be, it's uncontrollable, and it might damage the combustion system itself, and then it may ultimately really damage the entire turbine, and that's what we want to really avoid. And for more understanding of this flashback phenomena, what we have done is also at DLR, German Aerospace Center, fundamental experiments in their optical range jet rig in Stuttgart, and we evaluated there the effect of burner surface roughnesses on flashback phenomena itself. But more importantly, to overcome these challenges and to reduce the operational risk at site, we at Siemens Energy follow a proven iterative process, development process of our combustion technology that we also use for all our new gas turbine planes that we introduced into the market. And what we have done is we have followed this process as well, which is basically high fidelity CFD along with LES modeling, then using additive manufacturing technology to create prototypes, use the prototypes and test it in our clean energy center, which is simulating the gas turbine conditions, and that's what we have done. We have roughly evaluated above 30 different concepts, so we have chosen the most promising one and the best performing one. We have put it into the engine, tested them in our factory in Lincoln, UK, with natural gas, and only then, when we were sure that the risks are reduced, we moved it to Saya for testing, and there we operated it. This is the engine what you're seeing there at site with natural gas and hydrogen containing fuels. And with that, I'd like to conclude my presentation. So, what the status today is, what we have done is we have conducted the planned upgrade, upgraded the mixing station for flexible operation of the cogeneration unit itself, and we implemented also a hydrogen docking station in case our hydrogen supply may fail through the electrolyzer, so we will then be able to get hydrogen through trailers. Then in 2025, this year, we demonstrated the engine, we built it, we brought it to Saya, and we demonstrated it at site with natural gas hydrogen fuel blends that we conducted in 2025 summer. And we have shown that this is fresh off the press, that the fuel blend in the mixing station was achieved. Then that we demonstrated ramp rates of plus minus 10% in load with hydrogen containing fuels, and we demonstrated hydrogen fluctuations plus minus 30% for some conditions. And with that, also the outlook for the next testing campaign is what we want to do is really, we want to continue this with various conditions, up to 100% hydrogen, to do this transit operating conditions in load and hydrogen content. And of course, we are doing a techno-economic and environmental analysis of the cogeneration plant itself. We will have results there as well. And we will also update our upscaling and replication roadmap. And with that, I, almost on time, would be happy to take some questions if you have.
You can say, yeah. Thanks a lot. Okay, we have 10 minutes negotiated for Q&A before we go to lunch. I invite everybody back on stage. Anders, Alessandro, Parvati. Okay. Right, so I want to start with the first question I will take. Maybe we do 3 from me and 3 from the public. First one for Alessandro on H2AL. You show that despite the benefits of having hydrogen combustion, there are also some challenges, not only technical, also regulatory challenges. And so for a site like 2A, that is a site that is currently producing aluminum, this could represent some risk also in terms of, for example, delays and preventing from producing, which for them is the main income. So why would they undertake such challenge in their daily operations?
Thank you. So thank you for the question. So I think, I mean, we discussed that, of course, with them, and so they have very clear decarbonization goals. Even so, these are this is a big I mean, it's not a huge company, but it's the largest foundry in Italy for this kind of production. They see this as an essential step to their modernization. So they see that hydrogen is among the best solution to do that, and so that's why they went into that. They are aware of the challenges, technical and non-technical ones, but they see this as a, let's say, as still a good compromise and still a good viable solution compared to other low carbon fuels. For instance, ammonia would raise more challenges for them, I think. And they also, of course, see, so from one side it's the innovation, technological innovation, it's very important for them, and they have decarbonization goals. They think it's important to invest in hydrogen. There is the part on CO2 emissions. It's true that today maybe it's not very convenient, but they also foresee that there will be an increase in the quotas through the ETS system, and so they want to anticipate that as well. And the final part that was also mentioned by the CEO is that they see this as a selling point for their product. To say that their product relies on hydrogen, and in the long term, I think they want to install, they want to produce hydrogen on their site. So this is, I think, for them a big point as well.
Okay, thanks. Great to hear their long-term plans. One question for you, Ertan, to stay on the combustion. My last slide, I was showing the various applications and the various power scales. And I think with your application, you're on the 10 megawatts and more size for your application. Would you have the capability also to fill the gap between, for example, the 1 megawatt scale and the 10 megawatt scale by scaling down on rating down your turbines? Or do you have a solution available already in Siemens' portfolio?
Yeah, so when we started this endeavor for us, I think that was back in 2019, where we committed, along with other OEMs, gas turbine OEMs, that we will supply by 2030 gas turbines with the capability to operate up to 100% hydrogen. And that's why we really started that at that time. The HyFlex Power program is as our technology carrier to develop this technology, the hydrogen technology, and we developed it in such a manner, really looking forward to scale it up and down in our gas turbine portfolio. As you know, may know that we have a portfolio all the way down to 2 megawatts and to hundreds of megawatts. And so the technology development is scalable, And we have already also established partnerships, you may have seen in the media as well, where we started developing this technology for high efficiency gas turbines, and also for scaling up or down, that can be also done. So we are actively pursuing that to implement the technology in our other gas turbine frames as well. Okay, great. So you're able to cover various sizes of power requirement, whether that would be the case. Exactly. Okay. And that's why it's so important for us, this project as well, because this is our technology carrier, and it will demonstrate at site, not only on the rigs, laboratory. In laboratory, at industrial application, and that the learnings that we have from there, we will then also transfer as well. Okay, thanks a lot, Ertan. To move on the fuel cells, I have a question for you, Parvati. Your project, I think, is in a peculiar position because you started years ago on developing fuel cells for data centers. We know that today's data centers, because of the energy demand driven by AI, are requesting more and more energy, but I believe, as you said, the fuel cells application are particularly suitable for the low maintenance and the low moving part. And you show that you're able to guarantee 99.999% availability always, which is a requirement for the data centers. But is the technology that you showed able also to be scaled to the megawatt size that is today's requirement? And how then, if?
Yes, it is indeed scalable. Since we are developing modularized SOFC systems, they can be scaled up to many megawatts, and there have been very recently some projects that are happening mainly in the US, where they are looking into SOFC application for bigger data center sizes of maybe 100 megawatts or even up to 1 gigawatt, and it's the same technology. So the scalability is very much possible. That wouldn't be a concern, nor is degradation a concern, but with scalability, obviously there is space requirements, which for data centers, they would need to factor this in, because then we are looking at incorporating so many more modules and also supporting infrastructure on site. That might be one thing to keep in mind for data center operators, I would say. Okay, thanks. And we look forward to that, to achieve the higher size also for the SOFC fuel cells. Yep. We have 3 minutes left. I would welcome some questions from the audience, if any. I see one there in the middle, please.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a question to Anders about the modeling. How confident are you about the interest to use artificial intelligence model in competition or in combination with physics-based models?
I guess that's a general question.
Also on your subject on degradation and poisoning and carbon.
No, it's a wide and debated and long story, I would guess. My short answer could today be that I'm not the modeling expert. I know there are concerns on both sides. So one is the use of AI generally. So where does the data go? How do you develop your model? How accurate is it? So you need to be very careful. Physical models are also theoretically correct, has its limitations. So it's pros and cons for both. This is a research project and will then also show and perhaps also, I think, FPK, Matteo will have to correct me here, but also compare two types of models and show the strengths of what we do versus sort of more standard modeling.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot. There was a question from Michael on the other side.
Yeah, I have also a question to the project cleaner, and can you explain why you have excluded sulfur-containing compounds as a critical ones, and what grade of hydrogen do you approach? Because now we have standards and grades A, B, C, D. What is considered in your project?
Yeah, first to the grades. So we're following the topic, yes. So there are standards being developed, and yeah, we heard about that yesterday as well, I believe. It's been a long discussion. As far as I know, there is no conclusion yet. So there's been a range from 95 to 99.5 something. So there are different requirements for users, and then it's probably going to be a variation depending on location and pipes throughout Europe or so. So that's one thing. On the sulfurs, that's we know it's part of it, and it's also a serious one for our use and our sort of cases. We have considered it not our focus, also because it's a terrible thing to put into a 100 kilowatt fuel cell and yeah, make sure you can use it later on as well, and also in the labs. Also a practical issue there, but it's correct.
Okay, thanks a lot. I don't see any other hands raised. Okay, one. Sorry, there was already one, last one.
Hello, I'm Gert. Question for Ertan. You didn't mention any NOx scrubbing application, or what is for NOx? What is when you burn 100% hydrogen, what is the air to fuel mix you are targeting? And does NOx play a role in that?
Yeah. So to the NOx, when we burn, of course, with hydrogen combustion and DLE combustion technology, the target is to meet 25 ppm NOx targets for the project. And our initial tests that have shown in a couple of years ago that we will be able to achieve that target. Yeah, and our laboratory experiments have indicated this too, but we haven't regarding finalized demonstrated it yet, because we are still, as you could see, have a testing campaign coming up in the summer. We will do that. And regarding your specific air-to-fuel ratio, what I can say is it is lean premixed combustion technology that if you look into our website for the product SGT400, it has specific efficiencies that we report. And there, I mean, you know, if you're a combustion literature, you look up there, there's a range where it should be, and we are right within there, right? It's a entirely premixed combustion technology which we develop and that we demonstrate there. I hope I answered the questions.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay.
Thanks a lot for the question. The clock here is flashing red. So I want to thank all the participants, all the panelists for the presentation and the consortiums and for the work, and also all of you for the attention and the question. And I'll leave the floor to you, Mirella, for the conclusion
Just
before.
to invite you to lunch, yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I trust we'll make it in 45 minutes to eat. So let's aim to get back 2:10. And bon appétit.